Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, streaming, television, all sorts of good stuff. And, you know, we weren't originally going to do a show today. We weren't going to do one today because, you know, it's New Year's Eve, but I thought, you know what, why not? A bunch of us are around, let's get together and talk about some stuff. And I want to wish all of you a very happy and a very safe, please emphasize the safe, New Year. Can't celebrate a 2020 if you go into it all messed up. So have a very happy and a very safe New Year. It's great to have you guys here with us today. And, you know, here's how today's show's going to go. We're going to keep it pretty casual. We're going to keep today's show pretty casual. Just got a lot of interaction, taking a lot of your live questions today and all that sorts of good stuff. But I do want to remind you guys, if you are kind of new around here today on New Year's Eve, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the things that we've got going on around here, and it will be good to have you guys here. So listen, we only got one main topic today. Just one. Now, and I wasn't even going to do one main topic. I was just going to have today be very casual, laid back, just kind of taking all the questions from everybody, and that's all we were going to do. And Anne asked me as a New Year's Eve gift to her. Anne wants me to grow my hair out. My hair is not good. My hair is not good. So normally I would wear my hat on the show, but she said, here, let me do it. I need to grow it out at least this long before the weight of the hair will do it. So sorry guys, I had to subject you today to the hair that's going on up here, but I told Ann I would do it without a hat today. So there you go. Anyway, but there is one topic today that over the last couple of days, I've literally gotten over 100 messages about. And so we're going to take that one topic that I've literally over the past like 3 days, I've gotten hundreds of messages on this. So I thought we would take that today for what we're going to do. Now, how do we normally take our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys send in our main topics by going anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit. And then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. So with that down, let's get into our one solitary main topic today, shall we, on this New Year's Eve. And the one topic today that got sent in comes to us from Tomas or Thomas. I'm going to go with Tomas. Tomas G writes, "Good evening, John and team. I've heard a lot of people talking about the ending of Wonder Woman 1984, and I think a major thing that most people are missing is that since Maxwell Lord had become the wishing stone, when he renounces his wish, all the other wishes made on him became undone. So, a little boy who wished for giant monsters to appear wouldn't have to undo his wish because Max already undid it. See what I mean? Anyway, I hope that helps my fellow movie fans. Thank you, and have a great day." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, this message from Tomas is kind of symbolic of hundreds of messages that I've gotten. Now, I'm going to let you know, and my bad, I should have given you a warning before reading the question, but if you don't know anything about Wonder Woman 84 at this point, and I think most people do, but if you don't, and you don't want to hear any spoilers, then for the next like 10 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about the end of Wonder Woman 84. And this one big question that comes up. And so let's dive into it here. What a lot of people are talking about is when Wonder Woman 84 ended, Steve Trevor and Diana said earlier in the film that the only way the civilization can be saved is if everybody undoes their wishes. Steve Trevor literally says everyone has to renounce their wish. Everyone has to renounce their wish. Okay, so then what happens? We fast forward to the end of the film, right? And Maxwell Lord realizes that the world's about to be destroyed and all that kind of stuff. and he realizes he wants to save his son. So he believes that the only way to save his son is to renounce his wish. So he renounces his wish. From that point, an awful lot of people believe that because Max renounced his wish, that means that all the wishes that were made on his behalf and made on him automatically became undone. That seems to be the common understanding in the online fandom right now. That, well, since Max undid his wish, he was no longer the Dreamstone, so everybody's wish automatically became undone. That's why, little Bobby, who made a wish, I want giant robots. That's why little Bobby didn't have to undo his wish. Because remember, the movie said that everyone, Steve Trevor was specific, everyone has to undo their wish. Everyone has to undo their wish. So, as a lot of people write in and say to me, well, since Max undid his wish, that automatically undid everybody else's wishes. That is false. Hear me, my brethren and sisterin. What is the multiple of brothers or brethren? Sisters? Is it just sisters? No, there's no sisterin? Why don't the girls have a cool word like brethren? I'm going to go with sisterin. I'm making it a thing. Brethren and sisterin in movie fandom. I'm here to tell you that is incorrect. That common understanding going around, the Maxwell Lord undoing his wish, automatically undid everybody else's wish. It did not. It did not. And some people are pointing out in the live chat that my hair is now only a few weeks away from being Maxwell Lord's hair. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is getting there, isn't it? I didn't even notice that till somebody pointed it out. Look at that. I'm going for the Maxwell Lord haircut, apparently. So anyway, Daz Bones TV is saying sisterin is a word. Okay, let's go with that. But anyway, let's get back to the point here. We've got to put a stop to the madness, folks. Got to stop the spread of this disinformation, or this fake news, if you will, that in Wonder Woman 84, because Max unwished his wish, that automatically undid everything. Let's go over, let's end off the new year with a little bit of the Campea classroom, shall we? Let's go over into the Campea classroom. Okay, so here's what people, let me put this in here. What people think happened. Okay, so here's what happened. What people generally think is, okay, world is going to crap. Okay. Max undoes his wish, and then everything gets set right. Okay. This is what people think happened. Oh, and DJ sent in a super chat badge. Thank you, DJ. Appreciate that, man. This is what people think happened. They think that was the order of events, but that's not the order of events in the movie. This may seem like a small detail, but believe me, it's completely fundamental to our understanding of the thing. What actually happened, let's get this right here. What actually happened was this. Okay. A world is going to crap. Okay, so that happens, right? In the movie, we see the result of all these people making wishes. We see chaos in the streets. We see all this stuff going on, nuclear missiles appearing. Russia and U.S. declare war on each other. They're like 3 minutes away from nuclear Armageddon. Okay, the world's going to crap, all right? Now, remember, the nuclear missiles were a result of the president making a wish that he had all these new nuclear weapons, right? So anyway, this is what actually happened. So the world's going to crap. At that point, Max renounces his wish. Okay? At that point, Max renounces his wish and says, I need to save my son. And he goes, I renounce my wish. And then he turns around and runs out of the room to go and find his son, right? What did not happen next was all the wishes becoming undone. Go back and watch the movie. Max renounces his wish, but none of the wishes get undone. This is important. So what happens is after Max renounces his wish, the president renounces his. So after Max renounces his wish and runs out the room, I gotta find my son. And he runs out the room to go find his kid. Everything is still the same. The world is still about to end. And then the camera cuts to the President of the United States. And the President of the United States, looking all perplexed, he looks up and realizes, and he says, I renounce my wish. And once the president renounces his, the nukes disappear. Right? The nukes vanish. It wasn't when Max renounced his wish that triggered an automatic renunciation of all the other wishes. No, that's not the order of the movie. The world's going to hell. Max renounces his wish. Nothing happens. The president renounces his wish. Once the president renounced his wish, after Max rescinded his, then the nukes vanish. Then the nuclear missiles disappear. What happens next? The oil lord, I don't know what else to call him, renounces his wish. So after the nukes disappear, the camera's cut to the oil baron, right? Who's seen like crying and praying, and then you see him say, I renounce my wish. Once he renounces his wish, then the magic wall vanishes, right? It's not when Maxwell Lord renounced his wish that the nukes disappeared and then the wall magically disappeared. Maxwell Lord renounced his wish, nothing happens. Cut to the president, I renounce my wish. Once the president renounces his wish, then the results of his wish disappear. The nukes disappear. Did that make the wall disappear? No. He had to cut the camera now to the oil baron. And the oil baron says, I renounce my wish. And as a result of the oil baron still having to renounce his wish. And James Bonner sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, James. And then once the oil baron renounces his wish, then and only then does the wall disappear. From there, camera shows everyone renouncing their wish. Then, after the oil baron, then it goes to the guy in the bar, I renounce my wish. Then it goes to some dude out in the field, I renounce my wish. And then the whole message of the movie is everybody's renouncing their wish. Now, this causes a problem. This causes a problem. Because the problem we all recognized about the ending of Wonder Woman 84 is, well, listen, if a parent wished for their terminally ill child to get better, you're going to have a hard time finding a parent that's going to renounce that wish. It doesn't matter if the world's about to end. Some little kid wishes for giant robots. That kid's not going to understand the gravity of the situation. He's going to want to keep his giant robots. Other people like Diana, like a wife who lost her husband of 40 years wishing for her husband to come back, and now she's got her husband back. Do you think she's going to undo that wish? No, so it creates a problem that, are you expecting us to believe that millions and millions of people around the world, I'm sure a lot of them would renounce their wish. So to try to fix that, a lot of fans have said, well, Max undoing his wish automatically undid everybody else's wishes. But that's not true. The movie shows it. Max undoes his wish and it doesn't fix anything. The president had to undo his wish and then the nukes disappeared. The oil baron had to undo his wish still, and then the wall disappeared. Now, some people will say, well, John, we never actually saw Barbara, Cheetah, renounce her wish. But after we saw everybody else renouncing their wishes and the effect of their wishes being renounced disappearing, the camera does cut outside and Barbara is just sitting looking at a sunset. Back into human form, so she clearly renounced her wish. I mean, everybody else had to renounce their wishes for things to do, and just Max giving up his power didn't cause it to done. So it causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of problems. But the problems are not undone. So to me, that has been the single most biggest misconception about the ending of Wonder Woman 84 going around since the movie happened. Because the idea that Max giving up his wish automatically undoes all the other wishes, that seems to fix a lot of the logic problems, but the problem is that's not what happened in the movie. It's not what happened in the movie. Max gave up his wish, the president still had to renounce his, and then the nukes disappeared, the oil baron had to renounce his, and then the wall disappeared. The effects of everybody's wishes had to be undone by individuals. And that means the movie is still left in this place where every single person who made a wish has to undo their wish. Because that's what Steve Trevor said at the beginning or in the middle of the movie. Everyone has to renounce their wish. And if they don't, the society is still doomed. The society is still doomed. So anyway, I wasn't going to bring this up. It's just that literally in the last 72 hours or so, I've literally gotten over 100 people on Twitter, in the comments section, in the emails, writing in and saying, John, you don't understand. When Maxwell Lord undid his wish, that automatically undid all the other wishes. But that is not true. And that's dangerous, folks. Dangerous at such flagrant movie misinformation, because this is important stuff. This is important stuff. How the ending of Wonder Woman 1984 is of vital importance to our culture, our very survival. Anyway, so there's that. I just wanted to touch on that. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for being here, and thanks for indulging me as I dove into that one little thing. So if you see other people around saying online, Wonder Woman, the ending of Wonder Woman 84 is fixed because Max undoing his wish meant everybody else does, now you know to set them straight. You know how to say, actually, that's not true. Look at the order of events. The president undoing his wish is what made the nukes disappear, not Max undoing his. So just a little thing to throw out there, thing for you to do. Okay. Yeah, people are writing, what's in John's drink? No, I assure you in my drink this morning, actually, still not a lot of people list. Do you know, we're going more casual today since it's New Year's Eve. I actually don't drink alcohol. The only reason I don't drink alcohol is, and that's weird to say as a Canadian because I'm supposed to drink beer, and as an Italian, I'm supposed to drink wine, but I don't drink alcohol. The only reason I don't drink alcohol is simply because I hate the taste of it. I hate the taste of it. I wish I liked alcohol. I mean, once in a while I'll have, maybe a few times a year, I'll have a drink to fit in socially with everybody, but I really don't like the taste of alcohol. That's why, as I sit here doing the show, I drink Zevia. Sponsor me in 2021. You ungrateful sons of bitches. Anyway, so there's that. Okay. With that down, guys, let's spend the rest of the show. To talk about the things you guys want to talk about. Let's spend the rest of the show taking your live comments and questions. So let's do that right now. And let's start getting caught up here with our first one from Jesse. And Jesse writes, John, I just had a thought. Given the ending of The Last of Us 2 and Neil Druckmann saying that Joel and Ellie's story is over, what do you think the chances are that the HBO series will follow Abby and Lev after the events of part 2, and how would fans react? Nope, they won't do that. I mean, it's not impossible, but they're going to tell the story of The Last of Us. Because the vast majority of people out there never played The Last of Us. I mean, all your friends may have played it, but the reality is the vast majority of people out there have never played Last of Us. So, picking up, starting a story with just Abby moving forward from there won't mean anything to anybody unless you tell that foundational story of Last of Us. So could they eventually build up to going past the events of Last of Us 2? Yes, but I think they're going to cover the events of maybe even before. They might even go a little prequel-ish. I think they're going to do, but definitely they're going to cover the events of Last of Us, then probably of Last of Us 2, and then they might move forward from there. So that's how I see them going that way, Jesse. All right, next up. Soul Brother number 1 writes, regarding Barbara renouncing her wish, she only wished to be like Diana, which we never see her take back. She became Cheetah through Maxwell Lord, taking other people's abilities. Since Barbara kept Diana's abilities, she's pretty much immortal now. Here's the problem with that. The movie stated that everyone has to renounce their wish. The movie said that. Halfway through the movie, as they're going to visit that Baba Yaga guy who's reading all the ancient texts, they say in the movie, everyone has to renounce their wish. If Barbara did not renounce that wish, then the world is still in peril. And if Barbara didn't renounce her wish, then the 2 million other little kids who I want a giant robot, and I want my dog Spot to be 10 feet tall and speak. Like, there would still be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other fulfilled wishes out there in the world that will still run havoc on the world. So again, the notion that Barbara didn't undo her wish, well, then that contradicts the rest of the movie. that everyone has to undo her wish. And if she cannot undo her wish, then there are going to be hundreds of thousands or millions of other people who didn't undo their wish either. And that becomes very problematic for the movie. So it may fix one problem, but it creates a whole nother set of problems. See what I'm saying? But I'm glad. It's good to see you're thinking outside the box there, though. I like the way you're thinking. All right, next up. Man of Tomorrow writes, why wasn't there as much review controversy when Aquaman came out? By every critic or audience score I can find, it's either on par with or lower than Man of Steel or Wonder Woman 84. Maybe due to it being the most profitable DCU movie, or that he was a less known character. No, here's the thing. When you go and look at Aquaman, it has solid scores, right? I think it was like 65% Rotten Tomatoes, which means a good majority of critics liked Aquaman. So hold on a second. Aquaman, Rotten Tomatoes, okay? It meant like 65% compared to 35%. Oh, I was almost actually 100% bang on. It is 65%. 65% critics liked it, only 35% didn't. But, and Wonder Woman 84 isn't too far behind. Wonder Woman 84 right now is at like 61%. And they roughly have the same audience score as well. But here's the difference. Aquaman, as far as my own perception goes, Aquaman was a more straightforward, kind of simple story. And that can be a very, very good thing. A more straightforward, simple kind of story that just really focused more on the character of Aquaman and stuff like that. It doesn't do a lot in the movie to rattle our understanding of logic or the world around him, right? Wonder Woman 84 does a lot of things that just simply didn't make sense. And to a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that really liked Wonder Woman 84, despite the fact that there was a lot of things. You know what? We all have certain movies that we love, even if we know there's a bunch of things in it that don't make a lot of sense. So, somebody like me watches Wonder Woman 84 and all these things that don't make sense, it does bother me and it takes away from my enjoyment of the film. For other people, it didn't. But Aquaman is a little bit more of a straightforward movie. So people who didn't like it, they're just, it just didn't work for me, didn't like it. And people who liked it were like, yeah, hey, that was a lot of fun. But there's not a lot of controversy, so you still get like 65 to 35% split. But the 35% split, they don't have tons to complain about. It's just that, it just didn't work for me. It just didn't work. I found the humor kind of dumb and the action was a little bit unbelievable. Maybe they don't like Jason Momoa in the role, whatever. But with Wonder Woman, it seems like the people who don't like the film, they don't like it for a lot of these very big reasons. Like, this didn't make sense. This didn't work. The 80s stuff was pointless. Why did he even call, bigger issues? So you have a close comparison between how many people liked it to how many people didn't like it between Aquaman and Wonder Woman. But the gap between people who liked it and didn't like it is much wider with Wonder Woman 84. Because people who didn't like Aquaman, they just didn't like Aquaman. It seems like the people who don't like Wonder Woman 84 really hate Wonder Woman 84. You see what I mean? So that's why I think there's a lot less controversy, even though their audience and critic ratings are relatively close between Aquaman and Wonder Woman 84. But it's just that those who didn't like 84 really didn't like it. At least that's the way it kind of strikes me. Okay. Let's see. What else? Who's next here? That was Man of Tomorrow. Thanks for writing that in, Man of Tomorrow. Ernest writes, explanation for Barbara's return. Her wish to be like Diana was made before Max became the stone and gave her cheetah powers. We never see her renounce her original wish. Max renouncing his wish explains why she lost the cheetah powers, not the original wish. Again, like we just explained, Max giving up his power did not undo anybody's wish. Let's be clear about that. Max renouncing his wish did not undo anybody else's wish. The president still had to renounce his wish himself to make the nukes disappear. The oil lord had to renounce his wish himself to make the wall disappear. Max giving up his power did not undo Barbara's second wish. And as we already talked about, the movie explicitly states that everyone had to undo their wish. So if Barbara didn't undo her wish, there would be hundreds of thousands of other people that didn't as well, and the world would still be in chaos. That's not me making that up. The movie set the rule. The movie said, Steve said, everyone has to renounce their wish. And if Barbara didn't renounce hers, that creates a whole new set of problems. All right, next up. Stubble McShave writes, I have it. But by the way, Ernest, don't feel bad. You're not alone, man. I've gotten over 100 messages from people. There's a lot of people out there because think about it. In theory, if the movie said that Max undoing his wish automatically took away everybody else's wishes, that fixes a lot of the logic problems. Unfortunately, that's not what the movie says. The movie shows us Max undoing his wish and nothing happened. And it wasn't until the president undid his and the oil lord undid his. Everybody was responsible for renouncing their own wish. So keep that in mind. All right, Stubble McShave writes, I have a theory. There are a few Star Wars movies in development by Kevin Feige. Not just by Feige. By Feige, Waititi, and Jenkins. The one we know the timeline for is set after the established Star Wars stuff. Yes, my theory. Movies will venture into new territory in the future while series will cover established Star Wars. That's an interesting theory. Yeah, so the one thing that we know right now is that Patty Jenkins' Star Wars Rogue Squadron, it takes place after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be the first thing they do that goes past the events of the movies. So Rogue Squadron, Kathleen Kennedy said, will happen in an era after The Rise of Skywalker. Whether it happens 2 weeks after The Rise of Skywalker or 200 years after The Rise of Skywalker, we don't know yet. But we know it happens after The Rise of Skywalker. But a lot of the series, right? Obi-Wan is a prequel series. The Acolyte is also prequel, or was the Acolyte a movie? Now I can't remember, but that happens during the ending of the High Republic era. So it's in a totally different time frame altogether. Cassian Andor is a prequel series, and so on and so forth. So there might be something there. Maybe the movies move forward and the television series happen because Ahsoka is going to be a prequel series. It doesn't happen after the events of Rise of Skywalker. Rangers of the New Republic happens at the same time as Ahsoka and Mandalorian. Boba Fett happens at the same time as those other shows as well. So that you might be onto something there. You might be onto something. All right. Nice. Good point. Picking that out. Let's see if that's what it actually transpires to be. Is everybody falling in love with my hair, by the way? Is everybody falling in love with my hair? All right. An anonymous viewer writes, Cheetah never said, I renounce my wish. Well, she had to have. That's the ambiguous part. The wish she made with Max was undone after he renounced his wish. You see how many people have been writing this into me, guys? Again, we just walked through why that's not true. Max renouncing his wish, the movie clearly shows us Max renouncing his wish did not undo anybody's wishes. The movie showed it. We've walked through that already. Cheetah never said, I renounce my wish. That's the ambiguous part. The wish she made with Max was undone after he renounced his wish. But Barbara's original wish to be like Diana wasn't undone. So she can be in Wonder Woman 3 and not age and still have her powers. Again, if Barbara doesn't, the movie stated everyone has to renounce their wish. And if Barbara didn't renounce her wish, then the culture is still in peril and will die. And also, if we're saying Barbara didn't renounce her wish, then there are hundreds of thousands of other kids who wished for their dog to become a giant dog and speak Italian, or, an old man wishing for his wife to come back from the dead, or a parent of a terminally ill child who wished for their child to be cured. There are going to be hundreds of thousands of others who didn't undo their wishes either. And again, that contradicts the movie. It contradicts the movie, so that can't be the case. Or it just creates a whole new set of contradictions. Anyway, but you're not alone, Anonymous. Like, you see how many people have been writing that in. All right, the Wakandan Forever writes, as a fellow film fan, it is hurtful to see the fighting amongst us. Can't we all just enjoy ourselves already? Every time I watch Black Panther, I get emotional. There is no shame and there is no disrespect in loving what you love, Wakandan Forever. I mean, no, it's true. Listen, there's always been, whether it was the DC versus Marvel fanboy wars, which thankfully really isn't as big of a deal anymore, thank goodness. But now you've got Star Wars fandom is a toxic, disgusting, cancerous cesspool right now. Star Wars fandom is horrible. and I say this as a lifelong Star Wars fan, the Star Wars fandom has become a toxic, just brutal, ugly place. And it's too bad. It's too bad. But I have hope that just as we've seen over the last number of years that the DC and Marvel corporate zombie slave fanboy war has really quelled a lot. Like, it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. I have hope that at some point we will see the same thing happen with Star Wars fandom. That eventually the better angels will prevail. The more toxic elements will kind of disappear and all that kind of stuff. But, we'll see what happens. All right, next up. Broderick. Oh boy, I'm going to try to pronounce this name. Gochenauer. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Broderick. Anyway, do you think we will ever be shown Yoda's home planet or given a name for the species? Yes. I do. At some point, they're going to do that. At some point, we'll hear the name, because right now we don't know. Maybe in some Legends book they named it, but that wouldn't count anymore either. We just don't know the name of Yoda and Yaddle's species. Yoda, Yaddle, Grogu, we don't know the name of their species. And we've certainly never seen their homeworld. I do believe we are going to see that. I believe we're going to see it. Maybe not like in Mandalorian season 3, but I believe at some point and maybe it won't even have anything to do with Mandalorian or Baby Yoda. But I do believe at some point they're going to show us that. I think that's one thing they've kind of held on to for a while. All right, next up. Thanks for that, Broderick. Hans Gruber writes, Mr. McClane. Hello, Mr. Officer John McClane of the New York Police Department. On Die Hard, the internet proves you wrong. Search Google Trends for movies like Love Actually, and you'll see a spike each year in December. Since 2013 to 2014, you'll see the same trend if you look for Die Hard QED. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. Just because there's a lot of people out there who are wrong about, Die Hard being a Christmas movie, that doesn't make it right. A lot of people being wrong about it doesn't make it right. Just saying, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Me and Bruce Willis, I'm on Bruce Willis's side on this. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It is a movie that takes place at Christmas time. I mean, is Wonder Woman 84 a Christmas movie? I mean, it came out on Christmas. The last scene of the movie happens at Christmas time. Is it a Christmas movie? These are fun. This is going to be a fun debate. Me and Rob get into this all the time. This is going to be a fun debate to have forever. Every year, there will be a big debate about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. There are a lot of people who consider it a Christmas movie. Absolutely. But they're wrong. It's not. But it's obviously it's just a fun debate. All right, next up. Jalen Pryor writes, Hey, John, thanks for taking my main topic today. Well, this would have been the other day, obviously. Hope the year is better than 2020 was for movies. With Spider-Man's first look coming within a few days, do you think it will be on the level of the Batman trailer was on with only 25% of the film shot? Thanks. I mean, listen, here's the thing. A while ago, Sony said that we were going to get our first look at Spider-Man 3. And we didn't. Sony said a while ago we were going to get our first look at Spider-Man 3 before the end of the year. And now here we are. Today is it. Today's it. So unless they drop something today. Now listen, it's not a big deal if they don't. They probably fully intended to show us our first Spider-Man 3 thing before the end of the year. But maybe things didn't come together. Maybe things just didn't come together as quickly as they should have, and they weren't able to get one together. It's not a big deal. It's not important, but I am looking forward to getting our first glimpse at it, but it's probably still a little ways off, I'm thinking. Anyway, thanks for that, Jalen. Next up, Aiden Foley writes, Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Aiden. You've briefly talked about this a long time ago, but the creator of the video game Five Nights at Freddy's recently came out and said that he will be filming the game adaptation with Blumhouse in the spring of 2021. I'm excited. I can't get excited. John, you're not looking forward to Five Nights at Freddy's? I am looking forward to a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I think it could be really fun if it's done well. It's one of the only no, I take that back. Five Nights at Freddy's is the only video game that ever gave me the chills. It's the only game ever that gave me the chills. No video, even horror franchise never made me feel scared. There have been good games, don't get me wrong, but like these horror games have never made me feel nervous or scared or gave me the chills. Five Nights at Freddy's was the first game ever to literally give me the chills as I was playing it. That aside, the thing is, we have heard over the years many times, we've heard over the years that they're ready to start shooting Five Nights at Freddy's. We've been saying that for years. I've heard it all the time. So I will be excited about it when they actually start shooting. Then I'll be excited about it. It's just that I've heard too many times, at least 2 or 3 times, that, okay, now we're ready to start making a Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, no, now we're ready to start making Five Nights at Freddy's and all that kind of stuff. But I have never, but it's never, obviously never came to be. I'm thinking in the show, somebody said I skipped over Benjamin. You're right. I did accidentally skip over Benjamin. We'll get to Benjamin in just a second. So I will be excited when they actually start shooting. But right now, I've heard them say, we're going to start shooting Five Nights at Freddy's soon. And then it never happens. So I'm not going to get excited about it anymore until they start shooting. All right. Back jumping to Benjamin. Sorry about that, Benjamin. Thank you in the live chat because I almost skipped over that. Benjamin writes, hi, John, and hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. Watched your movie and I loved it. Thank you, my friend. I didn't see what your thoughts on Wall Street Journal article on MGM movie studio up for sale. Well, no, I talked about that briefly in one of the videos. To me right now, it's a non-story. There are a lot of people in the industry. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I have not been in the boardrooms of MGM, but there's a lot of people in the industry that think this is just posturing by MGM, trying to drive up the value of the company. Which, I mean, look, I don't know that that's true. I don't know that it's not true. So I haven't really paid much attention, or I'm not going to pay too much attention to the MGM situation until it becomes a little bit more clear about what actually is going on, and what they're actually doing. So, we'll see. If they do want to put it up, great. They can get a lot of value for it. If they're just doing this, if they're just creating these rumors to inflate the value of the company, that's probably not a bad move either. But I'm going to wait until we get a clear picture of what their intentions are, because right now I think those intentions are a little bit in question. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Benjamin, and thanks for checking out my movie, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope you had a good time with it. All right, that was Jalen we did. Then we did Aiden's. Okay, now up to Been There. And Been There writes, hey, John, I just watched your comments regarding Pablo Hidalgo for the first time or heard about it myself. Some fans are just bullies. The hate Kathleen Kennedy, I hope now stays. I still think Kathy Kennedy needs to move on. I do. And I say that as a Kathy Kennedy fan, as a producer, but I just think she's dropped the ball too many times as the head of Lucasfilm. But hey, if she leaves in the next year, she's leaving with Star Wars in a really good place. People are excited about Mandalorian. They're excited about Ahsoka. They're excited about Rangers. They're excited about the Obi-Wan series. They're excited about the Acolyte. They're excited about Rogue Squadron. They're excited about Taika Waititi. They're excited about all this. Listen, she can leave in the next year now, knowing that she's leaving Star Wars in a better place than it was, in the last couple of years. But I still feel like she needs to move on and go back to the things that she's really, really excels at, which is straight up being a producer. But that's just me. The first time I heard about the Paul Padal thing, I hope she now says, same people trolling Patty Jenkins. One can criticize art / decisions as you do with respect, which is why I like your show. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, look, the Pablo Hidalgo thing to me is still, I think is a really good example of how toxic the Star Wars fandom space has become. And just to give the quick short Coles notes on this, when I first read, because somebody sent it to me, one of you guys sent it to me, and I showed the image the other day. I first heard about the Pablo Hidalgo thing before I heard there were people upset about it, right? So I had this thing emailed to me, and the person who wrote the email simply said, what are your thoughts on this? And it's that image of Pablo Hidalgo writing 5 words, emotions are not for sharing. With the picture of the Star Wars Theory guy, whose reaction to the Mandalorian season finale was beautiful. It was a beautiful, authentic, wonderful thing. I watched a lot of reactions to that episode, And Star Wars Theories was certainly one of the great ones. It was really a fun thing to watch, to share that emotion with somebody like that, and it was great. But I, in no way, shape, or form, when I first read that, and this is before I heard any other people were upset by it, I, in no way, shape, or form, looked at that and thought, wow, Pablo Hidalgo is really mocking somebody. That was not my impression at all. And then when I did hear that a lot of people were mad and upset by it, I thought they were talking about some other tweet he must have set out. Because I'm like, surely all this like gnashing of teeth and everything isn't over those 5 words. Surely that's not what this whole uproar was about, but it turns out it was. And, you know, Pablo Hidalgo, and by the way, listen, Pablo Hidalgo has said nasty things about me. I feel no obligation to defend Pablo Hidalgo. Listen, let me just say that. But to be fair, there was nothing wrong. There was nothing brutal about what, and I didn't even think he was mocking him in the first place. But then a lot of people said, Pablo Hidalgo should apologize. Well, so then what did Pablo Hidalgo do? He put out a statement saying, look, to be clear, I was not making fun of anybody. This is just kind of self, thing. This was not, I love people are showing emotion. This was not meant as an insult. I apologize if it came across that way. So people were screaming, Pablo Hidalgo should apologize. So Pablo Hidalgo comes out, clarifies a statement, and apologizes. But that wasn't good enough. Well, his apology was fake. And it's like, okay, so basically the bottom line here is there are a lot of people out there who are just looking for something to bitch about. Now, look, I say that as somebody who's not inside Pablo Hidalgo's mind. If Pablo Hidalgo wrote that specifically as a way, or by the way, when Pablo Hidalgo wrote that initial statement, it was a private locked tweet. It wasn't meant to be public. It wasn't even meant to be public. So a lot of people reacting like Pablo Hidalgo go, look at this little baby. I'm going to humiliate him and mock him in front of everybody. What's the most humiliating, mocking thing I can write? Emotions are not for sharing. Really? Anyway. And I just feel like, to me, it feels like a lot of people want to make something out of it, even though there's nothing there. But again, I'm not inside Pablo Hidalgo's mind. If he meant it to mock and insult somebody that he kept locked and hidden, if he meant it to insult somebody, then screw Pablo Hidalgo. F him in his stupid effing face. If he's didn't mean it as some big sort of overt mockery of Star Wars theory, then everybody's making something out of nothing because hate gets clicks. Hate gets clicks. It just does. And so the moment somebody sees, there are a bunch of blogs and podcasts or whatever, the moment they see something that can generate a lot of hate, they know they can make content and get a lot of clicks. Or maybe they're all right and Pablo Hidalgo did mean it as that. He said he didn't, but I don't know. To me, it's just another great example of just how horrible Star Wars fandom is right now. And it's not just that one small segment of the Star Wars fandom. It's not just that one small segment of the Star Wars fandom. It's like all of us. It just seems like the whole Star Wars fandom is a mess right now. And that situation just kind of highlights it. Anyway, let's see here. Next up, Justin writes, John, why didn't you personally call me and tell me that Doom Patrol was the greatest show on television? LOL, just kidding. Doom Patrol is fantastic. Love your show. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Doom Patrol is amazing. Doom Patrol is one of those shows that I wasn't going to really watch because the other DC Universe show that came out first was Titans, and I watched Titans because a lot of it was shot in my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Loved seeing that, but I didn't like the show. The show wasn't very good. And I know there are a lot of people who like it, and that's great. For me, it just wasn't very good. And so when Doom Patrol came out, and they kind of introduced Doom Patrol in one episode of Titans, but when Doom Patrol, the show, came out, I had no interest in watching it. And then I had a bunch of people going, oh my God, Doom Patrol is not what you think. You should really check it out. And I watched it, and I fell in love with it, episode 1. That show's great. I loved it. It is so bonkers and weird and meta. And it's just like, if I had read a script about it, I would have thought this will never work. I flexed the wrong muscle, Are you kidding me? It's one of the greatest scenes in television history. If you don't know what that is, guys, go YouTube. I Flex the Wrong Muscle, Doom Patrol. One of the greatest scenes in television history. But that show is awesome. There are 3 very non-traditional, quote-unquote, superhero shows on TV right now. Doom Patrol, Umbrella Academy, and The Boys, and they are all phenomenal. They're all very different from each other, but they're all phenomenal, and I love all of them. And they're 3 of my favorite shows out there right now. I'm glad you got on it, Justin. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, Kylis Menon writes, watched Infinity War and Endgame in one sitting at Christmas. That sounds like fun. The good Lord's work. I know there is more MCU stuff coming out, but I still feel lukewarm about it all. I'd be fine with just seeing Disney Plus shows going forward. Thoughts? Well, listen, we talked about this in the days and weeks and months after Endgame. We talked a lot on this show too about the fact that you can feel a kind of dropping of the buzz level around the MCU. Not because anything bad happened, but because Endgame came out and it was literally the climax of a 10-year buildup. And once you hit that climax, there's this natural, like this crescendo, there's this natural kind of dipping. It's like, 20 plus films, 10 plus years, and it all built up to that one movie. And it was now done. It was now done. And much like, I don't, look, this is just a good analogy. I don't mean to sound crude or anything, but you know, once a guy is done in bed, the first thing the guy wants to do is just roll over and take a nap. He's exhausted. That was thrilling. That was great. That was wonderful. But I'm good now. And now I just need to close my eyes and relax. Just close my eyes and relax. So that's kind of what it was for MCU fans. It's like we had this big build up and to this big climax, and then Endgame happened. And you guys always hear me talk about Soul Video. My friend Jonathan Green, Soul Video, send in a super chat badge. Dude, if you think you only owe me $5, you owe me a lot more than that. I've kept a running tally of all the dinners I've treated you to. Never mind that the dinners you've treated me to probably outweigh them. Doesn't matter. Come on, cheap ass. I know you just got a new job, Green. Send me more than that, you cheap son of a bitch. He's a friend of mine. Anyway, but that's kind of been what it's been like for the MCU fans, right? Endgame happened, and we're like, wow, okay, we're done. And so there was, now I'm sure that the MCU is going to be able to rebuild that buzz. I'm sure the MCU is going to be able to rebuild that momentum. I'm sure they're going to be able to do that. But right now we're in that period of a bit of a lull. And by the way, in a way, it is, you have to also acknowledge that the whole COVID and pandemic thing plays a part of that as well. Because not only did we hit this big crescendo, we got another Spider-Man movie out, but it wasn't the same. And Spider-Man Far From Home was really good, but there just wasn't that same energy around it. You know what I mean? And then COVID hit, which has prevented MCU from getting that momentum back. So I'm sure they'll get there, but you're not alone, Kylis. I mean, a lot of people are feeling that lull right now, but they'll get it back. All right, next up, Kylis Menon writes, also, did you see the movies that were accepted into the Library of Congress's National Film Registry? Hurt Locker and Dark Knight were among some of the films. Yeah, this was a couple of weeks ago. Were among some of the films included. In my opinion, the first Avengers should be put in there as well at some point. Thoughts? Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really don't pay much attention, nor do I care much about which films does Congress put into the National Film Library. I really don't ever give it any thought. However, if you're going to bring it up, I would suggest that Avengers should be in there as well. I mean, to me, Avengers is the greatest comic book. The first Avengers movie is the greatest comic book movie ever made, and it really became the model of what the modern comic book blockbuster is. And I mean, we had Iron Man and we had Captain America, the first Avenger, and we had Thor and we had some, but in the MCU, but it was Avengers that really solidified this is what the MCU is, right? They were off to a great start with Iron Man. The first Avenger is terrific. I love Kenneth Branagh as Thor. But it wasn't until that first Avengers movie where the MCU really, truly found and solidified what its identity was. And the MCU is the most successful film franchise of all time, depending on your definition of success. And on that basis alone, yeah, I would think that the Avengers then should be one of the movies in there. But honestly, I don't care. It's just one of those things that really doesn't thing. But it's really cool that Dark Knight got in there. A lot of people consider that one to be the greatest comic book movie of all time. All right, next up. Eric Lynch writes, "Hey, John and Rob," who's clearly not here right now. "I'm not totally convinced that Gal is Wonder Woman anymore. Do you remember the Wonder Woman in the animated Justice League TV show and the Wonder Woman in the Injustice 2 video game? That is the version of the character that I love." I don't know. Honestly, listen, I love Injustice. If you guys have never watched Injustice Gods Among Us as the cutscene movie, it's only about 3 or something hours long. But if you go onto YouTube and search for it, it's totally worth getting a bag of popcorn and, filling up your soda or whatever, sitting down and watching for a couple of hours. It's really great. I read the entire Injustice comic run. It's one of the best written comics, seriously, one of the best written comics I've read in ages. The story is fantastic. Wonder Woman in Injustice, though, I don't know, it's a bit of a jerk. Like, I don't know. There's just something about the Wonder Woman in Injustice that's a little bit of a jerk. I personally find the Wonder Woman that they do in the movies today is more closely reminiscent of the Wonder Woman in the comics in the late to early to mid 90s. The late 80s to early to mid 90s. I find the Wonder Woman they're doing on screen now is much closer to that. And, listen. Every time you bring something to screen, you should make it in a unique way. So I don't think they should make it just like that. But yeah, listen, Gal Gadot, who, I don't consider to be one of the world's great actresses, but she's getting better. She is. She is improving. That's all you can ask. She's improving. And it's good to see her commitment to continue to try to get better. But yeah, she's still Wonder Woman, at least to me. I see where you're coming from, Eric, but at least to me. Eric, was there a 2 of 2? I don't see a 2 of 2. Okay, anyway, we go over to the great Bondi, who writes, "Hey, John, have you seen the second season of The Mandalorian behind the scenes?" I have not. I meant to do that the other day. I'm definitely going to do that today, though. It's funny because both Rob and I have not seen the second season of the behind the scenes of Mandalorian. And we're both like, I got to watch that. I'm definitely going to watch that today sometime. Behind the scenes is just one episode, 65 minutes long, but it was awesome. The Robert Rodriguez Baby Yoda video was a segment from there. Yeah, I was told that. I am very excited to see it. I really did enjoy season 1 of that, although it had a couple of episodes that were just wasted. Like there was one entire episode of that behind the scenes series of Mandalorian last year that was just everybody sitting around basically doing a giant circle jerk. They were all just sitting around going, "Man, I really like Star Wars. Don't you like Star Wars?" "Yeah, I like Star Wars too. Isn't Star Wars great? What about you, Rick? Do you think Star Wars is great?" "Oh, wow. I think Star Wars is so great." I mean, it was just basically an entire episode of that. And I'm like, if somebody is watching this, they're watching it because they're already Star Wars fans. You don't need to spend this entire episode trying to convince us that Star Wars is great. If we're watching a behind-the-scenes documentary series about the making of a Star Wars TV show, we are all clearly pretty hardcore Star Wars fans. You don't need... Anyway, that one kind of bothered me. But other than that, the overall behind-the-scenes series was really good, and it was really fun to watch. And I can't wait to watch the second one. I can't wait. And Donaldo Martinez sent in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks for that, Donaldo. I appreciate that, dude. Oh, Iconic Reactions is saying, "John, you missed my question." Which one? There was a Kylus. Did you see the movies that were accepted? Kylus, Watchmen, Infinity War, Endgame. Why didn't you I don't think I missed your question. So, yeah. Sorry about that. But I don't think, I do not think I looked down. I don't see anything. Yeah. I have not missed anything that I see. Anyway, let's keep moving forward. Let's see, Eric. That was Eric Lynch. That was the great Bondi. Let's move on now. Kara Black writes, one of three. Warning, Wonder Woman 84 spoilers, but this needs to be addressed. I believe you, Rob, and a handful of other people have a misunderstanding about the climax of the film. Everyone on the planet did renounce their wish because Maxwell Lord did it for them. See how many people are writing in then thinking that? And Books with Benjamin sent in a super chat badge. Thanks for that, Books with Benjamin. Since Lord had become the wishing stone itself, that means when he renounced his wish, every wish made to him since that point automatically became null and void. That's not what happened in the movie. We'll cover that again in a second. And got wiped away. However, while Barbara's second wish of being an apex predator went away, her first wish of gaining Diana's powers and abilities is still in effect since it was made prior to Lord becoming the stone, and henceforth she doesn't age now like Diana. She never renounced this first wish like Patty Jenkins said in the article. Here's the problem. The movie said that everyone, it said in the middle of the film, everyone had to renounce their wish or else the society was doomed. So if Barbara didn't renounce hers, that means there were going to be hundreds of thousands of other people who didn't as well. Also, as we addressed near the beginning, Maxwell, that is not what the movie did. Maxwell Lord undoing his wish didn't undo anybody's wishes. Again, the order in which the movie occurred was the world is going to crap, Max renounced his wish, and then nothing happened. The next shot, after Max renounces his wish, it goes to the president, and because the nuclear missiles didn't disappear. When Max Lord undoes his wish, the other wishes did not get null and void. The president had himself to renounce his wish. And so the next thing that happens in the movie is it goes to the White House. We see the president who's looking all like terrified. Nuclear weapons have just been unleashed. Nuclear Armageddon's about to come. So finally goes, I renounce my wish. And it's only when the president renounces his wish do the nuclear missiles disappear. And then it goes to the oil baron. The wall didn't disappear when Max renounced his wish. It was still there. So after Max renounced his wish, it went to the president. And then after the president, it went to the oil baron. And then we see the oil baron crying and praying. And he says, I renounce my wish. And only then did the wall disappear. So no, it is the movie clearly established that Max renouncing his wish did not automatically undo everybody else's wishes. The movie clearly shows us that everyone had to individually renounce their own wishes. The movie showed us that. So it is, but you're not alone, Karen. Like a lot of people had this misconception, but that's not what happened in the movie. Anyway. Okay. Next up, but you're not, again, don't feel bad about that. Everybody seemed to have thought that. Everybody felt that way. So don't feel bad about that. All right. Eric Lynch writes, where are we? That passive-aggressive Wonder Woman that has a firm tone to her voice that you knew, this is from the previous one, that you know when she speaks, she's packing some power you don't want to mess with. Gal's version of Wonder Woman isn't mean enough. She's not the animated one for sure. Still like her version, though. But then again, listen, there have been other versions of Wonder Woman. Right? If you go back... what was the name of the movie again? Doctor and the Wonder Woman. Hold on a second. Professor and the Wonder Women. What was that one called again? Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. That's it. If you guys go back to the movie Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, I don't know if I can get this thing up. There it is. So there's this, I think, wonderful movie with Luke Evans. And it's a true story called Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. And it's about the guy who created Wonder Woman. Right? It's about the guy who created Wonder Woman, the character, and about the origins of the character. And when you go into it, it's like Wonder Woman was basically an S&M kind of figure. Like with the magic lasso was meant as a representation of like bondage and stuff like that. It goes into, but then you go from that thing, you go into, and by the way, it is a wonderful movie. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman is really good. I enjoyed it a great deal. It gave me a lot of insight and more of an appreciation for the Wonder Woman character. If you have not seen it, you should check it out. Anyway, so there's that iteration of Wonder Woman. When you go into the earlier comics, she's totally different way. When you go to the original Linda Carter series, it's a totally different Wonder Woman. The Wonder Woman in the comics, like I said, in the late 80s to early to mid 90s is very different. Then you get that animated version one that they kind of changed a little bit, but you could make an argument that the animated one is the abbreviation. The bottom line is every time we see a comic book character, it's going to be a new, different kind of iteration. And that's a good thing. I mean, to me, at least, at any rate. But I see where you're coming from, man. All right. Thanks a lot for that. Next up, we've got Don't Do It writes, "Hey, John, hyped about Shogun. Dude, you have no idea how excited I am for Shogun. I am so psyched for Shogun. It was out of all the announcements at the Disney investors call, out of all the dozens of announcements they did, I think the one I got most excited about wasn't an MCU one, wasn't a Star Wars one, it was actually Shogun. Because you guys have heard me talking about Shogun for years. I'm so stoked for this. Anyway, at the same time that I was on, I remember coming home from school to watch the repeat of the 1970s Japanese show Water Margin about Chinese mythology. Love them to remake that next, which could be the new Game of Thrones. Well, maybe, but I honestly, Shogun could absolutely be the next Game of Thrones. If you guys ever read the book or saw the old miniseries with John Rhys Davies and Richard Chamberlain, remake that story today, it could be... Like seriously, Shogun has the potential to be the best show on TV. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying it carries that kind of potential. And I cannot wait. Don't do it. I cannot wait. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, man. All right, next up, we got Jack Hawk writes, "Hey, John, with all these crazy casting announcements for Spider-Man 3 being in characters from, by the way, there have really only been a couple of actual official announcements. Let's be careful about that. Bringing in characters from past iterations, and with that film directly tying to Doctor Strange 2, over under 35%, Chris Evans makes a cameo as Johnny Storm in Doctor Strange. I'll go way under 35%. It's certainly not an impossibility. It's not an impossibility. I mean, the way they're doing things right now, Michael Chiklis walking through as Thing is totally possible. Again, we live in a world where Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro, something none of us thought would ever happen. And yet here it is. So is seeing Chris Evans pop up as Johnny Storm a possibility? Sure, but it's also highly unlikely. Possible, highly unlikely. So I would give it like a 2% chance, so I'll go well under 35% on that. But it's not impossible. Let's see what happens. All right, Morris Codes writes, "I doubt I'm the first to say this, but Barbara never renounced her wish. Obviously, the movie kind of implies that she would have had to, otherwise the curse of the stone doesn't get undone. Which came before Max Lord got the gem. She wanted to be like Diana, which gave her strength and possibly immortality. Cheetah's powers came from Max. Again, as we've gone over many, many times, the movie explicitly outright says everyone has to undo their wish. Everyone does. The world's not saved unless everyone undoes their wish. And if she didn't undo her wish, then the 8-year-old boy, the 8-year kid watching it, I want G.I. Joe to come to life. And there would be G.I. Joe and Snake Eyes running around the streets. And hundreds, if not thousands of people who wish for their deceased spouses to come back to life would be walking the earth again. I mean, that creates too many problems. The notion that Barbara didn't undo her wish contradicts the movie and then creates an incomplete, Pandora's box of a mess of problems. Well, if Barbara didn't do it, don't tell me that the grieving parent of a terminally ill child who wished her child to be healthy was going to take their wish back. So it creates a lot of problems. Now, it is true, though, that we don't, like they already showed all these people going, I renounce my wish, I renounce my wish, I renounce my wish. And then the camera goes on Barbara, but the effects were already done. She was no longer in her cheetah outfit. And we already established that Max undoing his wish didn't change anything. So the only way she could have gotten back to that is if she undid her wish. And if they don't do that, it creates a whole bunch of breaking continuity in the movie, a whole bunch of logical problems, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, there's that. But you're right, Moshkars, you're not the first one to say it, but the movie clearly shows that that's not the case. So it is what it is. All right, A3 writes, you know, John, with Snyder's recent Sucker Punch, which he both wrote and directed, I think Warner Brothers should pull him off this upcoming Superman film, Man of Steel. No second chances in this business. We call Hollywood. I know, right? It is funny to me. It is funny to me that, you know, Patty Jenkins, who is an Emmy-nominated television director, films she has made have won the AFI Film Awards and won Oscars, and brought us the first Wonder Woman movie that was the first legitimate hit of Wonder Woman. She puts out one bad movie in Wonder Woman 1984. A lot of people like it. I'm not saying if you like it, that's awesome. I'm just saying, to me, it's not a good movie. And that's fine. And there's a bunch of people who don't think it's a good movie either. But it is funny to me to see this director who's won all this acclaim, won these awards, won Oscars, Emmy nominations, all that kind of stuff, puts out one bad movie, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't trust her to do Rogue Squadron, blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on. Every director will have a bad day at the office. You're right. Sucker Punch was terrible. It's the only Zack Snyder movie I don't like. It's the only one. But what do we do when Sucker Punch came out? Like, he had done a number of good things. Sucker Punch came out, they go, oh, that movie was bad. Don't let him direct anything else anymore. No, listen, every director is going to have a bad day at the office. Every director will. Even Spielberg, who's the greatest filmmaker of all time, by my opinion. Even he's had a bad day at the office or two. It's just amazing that, you know, somebody can do a whole ton of good stuff, and all of a sudden they put out one thing they don't like, and it's like, oh, I don't like that director anymore. I don't trust him to do anything. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on, just be a little more rational. Now, to be fair, though, maybe you're somebody who didn't like any of the television work she directed. Maybe you're somebody who didn't like the first Wonder Woman movie. Maybe you're somebody who didn't like Monster. Maybe you're somebody who didn't like her previous work. And based on that, you're like, I don't trust her. That's totally fair. I mean, that's completely fair. But yeah, it is a weird habit that we as film fans absolutely have. All right, next up. Initial D's writes, hopefully you get this before the end of the year. I am getting this before the end of the year, Initial. I hope he gets before the end of the year. Thanks for keeping me entertained this year. You and the whole team over there are all stars. Thank you so much, man. Everyone sending in questions, that goes for you too. Congrats to you and Ann on the new house. I'll see you next year. Thank you so much for that, Initial D's. I appreciate that, man. And yeah, it has been a crazy year. And John Farag, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, John. I appreciate that, man. It has been, no doubt, a crazy, crazy year. And crazy is putting it nicely. It has been a crazy year. But you know what, guys? We can all hold our heads up. We can look in the mirror and say we made it through. Now, we've got more challenges in front of us for 2021 for sure, but there is light at the end of the tunnel at last, so let's all get through it together. And Initial, it's awesome having you here. Thank you for supporting the channel, and thank you for being part of our community, man. I appreciate that. All right, let's see here. Chuck the Mystery, I like that name, writes, hey, John and Rob, who's not here. Absolutely love the documentary. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I've watched your show from the beginning. I know how much you both love Cavill and Affleck as Superman and Batman, but aside from them, who are your favorites in those live action roles? Thanks. Now, are we talking specifically in the DCEU? If we're not talking in the DCEU at all, then, I mean, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Maybe the best example of all time is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I mean, these are all some of them that really come to mind for me. The future ex-Mrs. Campea, Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. John, she was only in one movie. I know, but whatever. It's Lupita Nyong'o. What can I say? If we're talking in the DCEU, besides Cavill and Ben Affleck, well, Cavill and Ben Affleck, man, they are the gold standards for me. I don't know. Listen, I mean, all the BS going on around Ezra Miller notwithstanding, and some of the stupid shit he has said and done. And by the way, Licardo sends in a super chat badge to be supportive in the live chat. Thank you, Licardo. And so did Initial D's. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I love the badge, the hype badge. That's fun. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. I am enjoying Ezra Miller as Flash. Now, he's a very, very different Flash from Grant Gustin's Flash on TV, but those are two completely different characters. That one character is completely different from the movie one, but I like Ezra Miller's Flash. I do. I'm not thrilled with a lot of his off-camera bullshit, but whatever. I like him as Flash. I think there's potential there. And I like Aquaman. I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I do. But like the ones in the DCU that I really love is Henry Cavill as Superman and Ben Affleck as Batman. And here's hoping that we all like Robert Pattinson as Batman next. The trailer was certainly a good start, man. The trailer was certainly a very good start. Okay, let's keep going here. The other brother, Daryl. I'm Bob. This is my brother, Daryl. This is my other brother, Daryl. I like the call out there. The other brother, Daryl writes, one of two. John, I share many of your criticisms of Wonder Woman 84. I do feel Kristen Wiig was a big high point, even though I thought the character was misused. I agree. And I was even though I'm a big fan of Kristen Wiig, I thought her casting in this was a little weird, but she was actually really good in it, even though the character wasn't necessarily used to their best potential. Would have made more sense to have Diana incapacitate her near the end, then go deal with Lord. Having convinced Lord and the rest of the world to start renouncing wishes, could have freed up a recovered Cheetah to repair and end the movie with a big battle scene, culminating with Diana defeating her and finally convincing her to renounce her wish. More satisfying to me. I agree. I thought it was a mistake in the movie because I liked the fight at the end between Cheetah and Wonder Woman. I liked that fight, but it was really short and it wasn't the main event. It was the co-main event. It was the undercard because Wonder Woman had to get through Cheetah and then get to the Maxwell Lord thing. And to me, it's like, if you're going to have Cheetah in a Wonder Woman movie, that should be the big final confrontation. That should be the big fight, at least to me. And they didn't do it that way. So I like the way you're describing it. I like the way you just described that. I think that would have been pretty cool. All right. Thanks for sharing that, other brother, Daryl. And I love the name again. All right. Mike Press writes, I have Disney Plus and I want to make a guest profile, but there is no Lumiere avatar, Beauty and the Beast. Also, no Luke Skywalker avatar. What's up with that? Honestly, I didn't even know you could have avatars. I had no idea. Listen, just, I am not one of these guys. Like, look, if I open my phone here, I've got my phone here today. If I open my phone here, right? So I got my phone here. You'll notice, like a lot of people with their phones, they will put in a lot of effort to wallpaper it and get the right icons that they want. And if you look at people's desktops, they'll put a lot of work and effort into having the right wallpaper they want on their desktop, on their computer or laptop or whatever. I'm just one of those guys. I've never cared about that stuff. So today, if you look at my computer monitor, it's the default Windows. It's the default wallpaper that came with the Windows. When you look at my screen, I got to unlock it again. When you look at my screen, it's just the stock one that it kind of came with. I certainly never put any energy or effort into setting up avatars and all that kind of stuff. So it's not really a thing that means anything. So I didn't even know, dude. I didn't even know you could set up specific avatars in the Disney Plus app. Didn't know. I learned something new every day. Thanks for that, Mike. Let's see here. Mike writes, do you know any better Tom Trinity? Tom Brady, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Let's see. Brian DeVries is saying in the chat, you missed 2 for 2 of other brother Daryl. No, I didn't. I read it. It's the one that ends with more satisfying to me. I read that. Anyway. No, not off the top of my head. I can't think of a better Tom trilogy. Tom Brady, the GOAT. Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, the world's dad. Yes, Cara Zorel saying in the live chat, Tom and Jerry. I don't know that I put Tom and Jerry up there, but that's one. I like that trilogy. I like that Trinity there, Mike. I like that one. Ken M writes, I've seen Wonder Woman 84 twice. I disagree with your assertion that Barbara renounced her wish. You never hear her say anything when everyone's renouncing their wish. Seeing as she wished to be like Diana before the stone was destroyed, shouldn't she keep her wish? Again, she would have had to have renounced her wish. For her to transform from Cheetah back to her regular human form, Max, we've already established on the show today, Max undoing his wish didn't change anybody else's wishes. The movie clearly showed that everyone else still had to individually renounce their wish. The nukes didn't disappear when Maxwell Lord undid his wish. It wasn't until after that, when the president said, I renounce my wish, that the nukes disappeared. It wasn't until the oil baron said, I renounce my wish, that the wall between the countries disappeared. Therefore, the movie sets up that Max renouncing his wish wouldn't have just undone Barbara's one wish and turned her from the cheetah form into human form. She would have had to have done that herself. That's what the movie sets out. And again, the movie clearly stated that everyone has to renounce their wish. They said that explicitly midway through the film. So if Barbara didn't undo one of her wishes, then the world's still effed. And if she didn't do it, then I guarantee you there would be hundreds of thousands of other people that didn't do it too. So it creates a lot of logic problems for the movie. So anyway, there's that. All right. That was Ken M. All right. Dash's ship in episode 4 writes, just a fun what if question. Vader versus Luke versus Yoda versus Starkiller from The Force Unleashed in a 4-way fight to the death, and all in their prime. Winner gets episode 8 wiped from their memory. Who wins in your opinion? In their absolute prime, Luke Skywalker wins that fight. In their absolute prime, Luke Skywalker became the greatest Jedi of all time. So to me, that's fairly easy. That Luke, remember the Emperor in the prequel, the Emperor, when talking to Yoda, talking about Vader, the Emperor said, he'll become more powerful than either of us. He's going to become greater than either of us. And he does. And then Luke beats him. And then Luke only continues to grow after that. So to me, fairly simple answer to that. Luke Skywalker in his absolute prime, Luke Skywalker wins that fight. That's just my opinion. Good question though. All right. Colby Harris writes, Dear John, I just pre-ordered the Hot Toys Classic Suit Spider-Man from the 2018 game. Nice. This is my 4th Hot Toy. I have Thor from Infinity War. Oh, that's a good one. Iron Man Mark 6 from Iron Man 2 and the Mythos Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's another really good one. I also plan on getting Battinson from Hot Toys. I didn't know if did they announce a Battinson from Hot Toys? Did Hot Toys announce one of those? That'd be pretty cool if they did. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I still only have 4 Hot Toys, and it's because if I buy one, I know I'm then going to buy 3 or 4 or 5 more. I'll buy one, I'll bring it home like, man, that looks so good there. Wouldn't it be good if we had 3 more over there? And they're just too expensive. So I love the ones I have. I have an Iron Man one, I have a Boba Fett one, I have an Alien one, and I have my favorite one, Russell Crowe Jor-El from Man of Steel. That's my favorite one that I have. But I can't, man, because I'll spend all my money. Ann and I will get this new house. Hey, John, how come we didn't make this month's mortgage payment? No reason. Can't imagine why. Really? Has nothing to do with those 8 Hot Toys on your shelf now? Nope. Nothing to do with that, honey. Nothing to do with that. Yeah, I gotta be very, very careful about that. Let's see here. B. Wayne writes, John, I really wanted to like Wonder Woman 84, but I didn't. This film had plot holes big enough to fly an invisible plane through. Also, to your comment about how ridiculous it was seeing Wonder Woman lasso lightning, don't forget that her daddy was the lightning man Zeus. Happy New Year. You know what? That is one. So I had this in my 5-hour Wonder Woman spoiler discussion video. I listed a long laundry list of things. And, we just went over how everybody's saying, oh, but Maxwell Lord renouncing his wish. Then no, we proved that that's not the case. But the one complaint that I had that I said it was just a nitpick, but the one objection I raised about the movie that some people gave me a really good, valid reason for was, and I don't know if y'all know how lightning works, but lightning isn't some physical thing that strikes and then sits there for 10 seconds, that Wonder Woman can take her lasso it around, because by the time the light of lightning hits your eyes, the lightning bolt is actually gone. Like, that's how fast it is. So it's not like lightning happens, Wonder Woman sees, oh, there's lightning, and the lasso wraps around the lightning, and then it stays there long enough for her to swing across it. That's ridiculous. Some people, like you, B. Wayne, brought up a really legitimate mythological point, which was her father is supposed to be Zeus. What does Zeus do? He physically grabs lightning bolts and physically throws them. If Diana, we're getting into heavy nerd territory here, but if Diana is the daughter of Zeus, and Zeus can physically manipulate and hold in a physical way lightning, then is it so far-fetched, even within comic book logic, that Wonder Woman, as the daughter of Zeus, couldn't take advantage of lightning in somewhat of a similar way? And I read that argument, and I'm like, you know what? That's a good point. I think that's a very, very good point. So consider my criticism about her using lightning to swing across. I renounce my criticism. You know, the others renounce their wishes. I renounce that criticism because I think that within nerd psychology actually made a lot of sense. So I agree with you on that, B. Wayne. All right, next up. Artur writes, John, I have a problem. Let me be the one to fix your problem, Artur. I want to make my top 10 of 2020, but found out that Bad Education, which was released on April 25th of 2020, is considered to be a 2019 film. On IMDb, Wikipedia, Rotten Tomatoes, all three sites show 2019. Why is that, and which year should I put it in? Great question. By the way, great movie. Let me just bring it up here. Bad Education. All right. Bad Education is the Hugh Jackman. It's based on his true story. And it's a Hugh Jackman film that was straight to HBO, I believe. I believe this was one. Great cast, too. Hugh Jackman, Ray Romano, Allison Janney. I mean, Allison Janney's killer in this, actually. Coming off of her Academy Award win. She's really, really good in that. And Hugh Jackman just kills it in this movie, too. I'll bring up the poster here. But for those of you who didn't see it, it's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. And you're right. HBO debuted it on April 25th of 2020. Why then, when you go to a bunch of these places, does it list Bad Education as being a 2019 film? Here's why. The film actually debuted at the Toronto International Film Festival in, you guessed it, 2019. A movie is officially considered in a year that it first plays in front of a paying public audience. Theoretically speaking, now let me just double check this to make sure. I'm going to close this. Where's release dates? Okay, so you see right here, September 8th, 2019, it played at the Toronto International Film Festival, which people could buy tickets for and go and watch. It also played on October 7th, 2019 at the London Film Festival. On November 12th at the Kamaraj International Film Festival in Poland. So technically speaking, movies that play, once they play in front of a paying audience, that is the year it's considered to be from. If I were you, I would personally consider Bad Education a 2020 film. So if you're putting together a top 10 for 2020, I think you're safe to include Bad Education. Even though technically speaking, it is officially a 2019 film. The reality, everybody only got a chance to watch it in 2020. I'm not putting together a top 10 of 2020 myself because it's a waste of a year. I'd have to have asterisks beside everything. So I'm not going to do that my year. But for you, I think you're perfectly okay and clear to have Bad Education as a 2020 film. And by the way, guys, seriously, follow Artur's advice there. Do check it out. It's a very, very good movie. All right. Alfredo Parra writes, hey, John, breaking news. Well, this is from a couple days ago. Apart from directing Wonder Woman 3, Star Wars, and Cleopatra, Patty Jenkins is now confirmed to direct the sequel to movie trailers A Love Story. The documentary was awesome. Thanks. Great work. Well, thank you for that, Alfredo. I appreciate that. And you know what? Why not? Give me a second here. Let me do a little plug. I didn't do my regular little plug, but let me do my regular little plug here. For those of you who may not know, I'm sure most of you do by now. The last year, the documentary everybody's talking about is a documentary that I made about movie trailers, and it is called Movie Trailers, A Love Story. It is available now worldwide. Whatever country you live in, it is available worldwide at vimeo.com/on-demand/movie trailers. However, if you happen to live in the US or the UK, you also have the option of watching it on Amazon. So just go to Amazon and search for Movie Trailers, A Love Story, and you will find it there, and you'll be able to watch it there. And thank you to everybody who has checked it out. And thank you so much to you, Alfredo, for the kind words. I appreciate that. And yeah, hey, if Patty Jenkins wants to come and direct a sequel to my movie, my documentary, not a lot of documentary sequels get made, but I'd be all for it, Alfredo. Thanks for that. All right. Oli from Norway writes, completely agree with you on the PH tweet. I'm assuming you mean Pablo Hidalgo. If he meant it or not is irrelevant. He should know better. Oh, I agree. He should have known better. 1000% he should have known better. Twitter has become a shithole. You can tweet, I don't like sausages, and someone on there will interpret you that you don't like gay people. Oh, it's true. But listen, let's talk about that one part there just for a second. Again, I read Pablo Hidalgo's tweet before I heard that other people were mad at it. I just read it and I'm like, I didn't think he was mocking anybody at all. It didn't strike me as that at all. It's such a mild little thing. I can't believe people were losing their minds online over 5 words. Emotions are not for sharing, which was clearly meant in jest. That's clear. I'm convinced you purposefully have to want to misinterpret it to make it out to be something else. But really, we're so fragile? Like, are we so fragile that like everybody on the internet gets he said emotions are not for sharing. I can't handle it. We're just all these precious little princesses and we can't, I don't know. But that said, don't let Pablo Hidalgo off the hook either. Like, look, you know the context that we're in right now. You know the Star Wars fandom is a bloody hot mess right now. You know this. You know that there are a lot of people just waiting for the slightest thing to be said wrong to make mountains out of molehills. You know this. And you have to be self-aware enough and not so tone deaf to understand that even if it's behind a locked tweet and you think it's private, something you put out on the internet that could be seen, you have to be more self-aware than that. Now, look, if I was Pablo Hidalgo's social media manager and he wrote this out, this is what I want the next tweet to be, and it came to me first before putting out, and every celebrity should have a social media manager. Never trust your own head when you're in the public eye. Every celebrity should have a social media manager. Anyway. And if I was his social media manager, I would have looked at that and gone, okay, this is pretty harmless, but I would have got back to Pablo and said, there might be some way somebody could misinterpret this. Maybe you want to reword it. Maybe put a little bracket beside it. Obviously, I'm just joking. Or maybe you want to do that. Like, I would have said, he should have been self-aware enough himself. The fact that he is that tone deaf, the fact that he was a lack of sensitivity to the environment that he was in is concerning if you're an executive at Lucasfilm. He's got to be smarter. There's no getting away from that. He must be smarter than that. Anyways, this is my thoughts on that. All right, anyway. An anonymous viewer writes, I was listening to you and Rob discuss the Obi-Wan Vader sentence from A New Hope and on whether they met after Mustafar or not. And I kept thinking on that one line from Jedi where Vader tells Luke, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. Is that not a hint that they did? No, I don't think so. I think the interpretation has always been for decades, has been that Obi-Wan thought there was good in him, that Obi-Wan thought, that he was a good man. He was a light side guy. I always interpreted it as that. Again, post fact, they can take that and play with semantics to make it out to be something else. And I'm sure they will. But yeah, my interpretation of that has always been just that Obi-Wan thought he was a good man. And that's what I kind of thought. All right. Anyway, but you're not the only one to think about that, Anonymous. You're not the only one to think about that. You're in good company. All right. Totally Not Clark Kent writes, isn't Bruce Wayne around 12 to 13 years old during Wonder Woman 84? Y'all know he had to have seen Maxwell Lord on TV and taken his wish to get his parents back, then immediately give them up again, as if his initial childhood trauma wasn't bad enough. I mean, but it's not just Bruce, right? It's not just Bruce. There would have been a lot of children, adult children, young children, whatever, of deceased parents that would have wished them back. Parents wish back their deceased kids. Spouses wish back their dead and deceased loved ones. Parents of terminally ill children who wished away their cancer or wished away their illness. That there's no way they would. If it was a possibility that one person could not undo their wish, you know there would have been tens, if not hundreds of thousands of others who would have done the same thing. And the world would be doomed because the movie said everybody had to undo their wish. So you're right, man. The first thing that young Bruce Wayne, I want my mommy and daddy back. And there you go. All right. Next up, Albert Ukransky writes, hey, John, happy new year to you and everyone on the show. Thank you so much, man. Fight between Cheetah and Wonder Woman. So electricity affects Cheetah, but not Wonder Woman? WTF. Also, 2021 is literally saying 2021. Yeah, it is kind of saying that, isn't it? Yeah, that was interesting too. I wrote it off in my head when that happened in the movie that it had something to do with the suit she was wearing. Or the fact that she is the daughter of Zeus. That's the other one. Now, you can make the argument that, well, Cheetah asked to be like Diana. So if Diana is immune to electricity due to her lineage of being the daughter of Zeus, which could make sense, then why wouldn't Barbara also have that immunity? Oh, that's a fair point. So in my head, I kind of write it off to the gold suit she was wearing. The fact that she was wearing Linda Carter's suit. That's what I write that off to in my head. Now, I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Maybe I'm way off base on that. But that's kind of the way I rationalized it in my own head. It was the gold suit. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But it's a good question, Albert. All right, next up, the Wakandan Forever writes, Wakandan movie review. Movie trailer's a love story. We live in a 0 out of 10 world. 10 is the best thing ever. Okay, seriously, John and Rob, great job. I did not think you were going to have a Black Panther segment. I watched it twice. Yes, I cried. Bravo. That's right. There's a moment in there where we talk about the Black Panther, specifically with the guys from day one that we talked about the Black Panther trailer. And by the way, for those of you who have seen my documentary, that scene where Drew is talking about the Black Panther trailer, that was totally done before Chadwick Boseman died. Like, we didn't throw that in there because of the death of Chadwick Boseman. That was actually in the film before Chadwick Boseman died. And there was a conversation. You know, me and fact checker Jonathan, who did the editing of the movie, we sat around and we had a conversation about whether or not we should take that scene out because of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. But then we realized, it's going to be many, many months after the death of Chadwick Boseman that this movie is going to be ready for people to see, and I think we'll be okay. So, yeah, and it was a very special thing. It was a very special thing. Thanks for pointing that out, Wakanan. All right, hindsight is 2020. I see what you did there, and you tipped in $20. Thank you, man, for supporting the channel on that level, man. I really appreciate that. Okay. Happy New Year, the John Campea Show crew. Thank you for your content to help us get through the year. So the Wonder Woman 3 synopsis leaked. Dr. Psycho, oh my God, Dr. Psycho from Harley Quinn. Dr. Psycho calls Wonder Woman the C word during a fight, and in order to rehabilitate his sexist image, he needs to join Margot's Harley Quinn and her crew. I'm telling you, that scene, first of all, guys, if you have not seen Harley Quinn, the animated show, which looks dumb as hell. I had no intention of watching that show, and everybody convinced me to try it. And now Ann and I love that show. The Harley Quinn show is one of the best things on TV, the animated show. That scene with Dr. Psycho fighting Wonder Woman. There's a scene in the show where he's fighting Wonder Woman, and he calls her the C word. And when he does, the world stops. Like, the whole world, like even satellites, like... Like, he's sitting there destroying public property, putting people's lives in danger. Well, he might have killed people, but he said the C word out in public. And like the whole world was like, in the show. It's absolutely hilarious the way they did it. And wouldn't that be funny if they found some way to incorporate that into Wonder Woman 3? Oh, Dr. Psycho. I think Alan Tudyk did the voice of Dr. Psycho. I know he did the voice of Joker in it. I think he also did Dr. Psycho. Might have been somebody else. Anyway, let's move on here. Marie Seafring writes, "Hey, John, when Viacom CBS rolls out Paramount Plus in early 2021, how interested are you in the new series about the making of The Godfather they are planning? Thanks." You know what? I haven't paid much attention to that. But listen, I am a sucker for Hollywood history, behind the scenes stuff. I eat that crap up. It's one of the reasons why I like the Mandalorian behind the scenes series so much. I eat that crap up. And if it's to do with The Godfather, a movie many consider to be the greatest movie of all time, oh yeah, I'll check it out. But I'll be honest with you, right now I have got no buzz about it because I'm not even thinking about it. It's going to be interesting to see how, they do once they do launch Paramount Plus. It's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do with that. All right, let's move on here. Thank you for that, Marie. Next up, Captain Butter writes, "In Wonder Woman 84, Steve should have come back in the body of a 300-pound pimpled nerd. It would pretty much be the shallow Hal too. Do you think audiences would be okay with the genders being flipped? I feel like the boys would touch upon this ethical dilemma better than Wonder Woman 84. The Boys touches on... The thing is, here's the thing about The Boys. The Boys and Doom Patrol and Umbrella Academy, all three of these shows, they do a great job of actually tackling very heavy, serious issues wrapped in a veneer of total bonkers ridiculousness comic book superhero stuff. It's really quite impressive the way they do it. What would have happened? It would have been interesting. What if Steve Trevor... First of all, I still have no idea why in order for Steve Trevor to come back, he needed somebody else's body. When the wall came, the wall just appeared. When the president wished for more nukes just magically appeared. Why didn't Steve Trevor just reappear in his own body? Why was his own body not just remanifested? Anyway, it would have been interesting. Actually, maybe not. What if the body he came back in was a woman's body? But, I mean, that really wouldn't be all that weird for Diana because Diana comes from an island of women. So, I mean, so I guess that wouldn't have been anything new. Yeah, but what happens if instead of coming back in a really handsome guy, he came back like, I don't know, as me? What if Steve Trevor came back as me? Like, I don't know, but he came back as a real handsome dude. But you're right. The Boys would totally handle that question really, really well. All right, next up, Dex Star writes, "Hello, hope all is well it is. In the talk of recasting Black Panther, I agree with going with M'Baku, but imagine a bigger Black Panther that beat the mess out of people the way Batman does in Batman vs. Superman and have Shuri be in an Alfred-like role. Just a thought." Oh, I agree. Listen, Winston Duke as M'Baku is one of my favorite things about Black Panther. He's awesome in that role, and I love the character. M'Baku is a great character. And that, to me, only one new Black Panther makes sense. If you're not going to recast T'Challa, which they totally should do, they 1,000% should recast the character is too important. But Kevin Feige's already announced they've decided not to. Fine, we move on. To me, the only choice that makes sense is M'Baku. He has the legitimate claim to the throne. He will beat anybody defeat anybody in Wakanda in the single combat challenge. He is a close ally of T'Challa, former king. He has ruled his whole life of the Jambari tribe. He has a legitimate claim to the throne, and he would be the baddest, badass Black Panther they have, other than T'Challa. So now make that really weird relation, because remember in the beginning of Black Panther, T'Challa was scorning at Shuri, and Shuri didn't like him either. Now they've got to work together. Because Shuri is the smartest person in the MCU, according to the producers. She is the smartest person in the MCU. She is the head of their technology division of Wakanda. So, hey, M'Baku and her got to work together now. There's some gold in there. I am convinced there's some absolute on-screen gold in there with the two of them, like just totally not liking each other, but having to work together. I think that would be awesome. But yes, M'Baku, boom. He should be it. Maximus is pointing out, M'Baku was never Black Panther in the comics. Irrelevant. These aren't the comics. This is the movie. There's a lot of things done in the MCU movies that were never done in the comics. A lot of things. So it doesn't matter. If the comics are the comics, movies are the movies. M'Baku, as far as the movies go, he is the logical choice to be the next Black Panther. They probably won't go that way. I don't know. They probably won't, but that totally is the way they should go. It's totally the way they should go. All right, The One writes, The One is a very poor movie. The Jet Li film, little thing. The One, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, The One was the first actual feature film, like legitimate, going to be released in movie theaters, feature film, that the visual effects and CGI company I worked with did. We were doing lower level stuff, and then we got this, subcontract to do a couple of shots for Jet Li's The One. I'm thinking we're talking about Jet Li's The One. Let me just make sure we are. I believe we are. There is a Sam Rockwell The One. Is that what you're talking about? I think we're talking about Jet Li's The One from 2001. That was the first movie that we actually worked on. I think it's the first movie that that I really noticed Jason Statham in as well. And by the way, like Da 5 Bloods' Delroy Lindo, he's in that as well. So if we're talking about that movie, we actually did one or two shots from that movie, and it was the first real movie that we ever did on that. So I liked The One. I think it's kind of a silly movie, but I kind of liked it if I remember it properly. It's been a while since I saw it. All right, Zeke Said So writes. Where do we go? There he is. Zeke Said So writes. I have now watched Soul 3 times since it's been on Disney+. My question is, which 2020 Pixar release do you think was better, Onward or Soul? I had a very deep connection with Onward, but I know Soul is the better made movie. I'm torn. Well, I don't know that Soul is the better made movie. They're both great. Soul, which was one of the final films to hit theaters before the pandemic shut down, and it didn't make it all the way through its theatrical run. It got cut short. Or I should say Onward, one of the last movies that got released. Onward was really fun. Onward was great. It was a big Dungeons and Dragons adventure. It was really fun. And the movie meant a lot to Ann and I, specifically my wife Ann, because number one, we play D&D. My wife and I play Dungeons and Dragons. But so we were totally into that, but my wife lost her dad. My father-in-law died just a couple of years ago. And the whole movie about these two brothers just wanting to have one more day with their dad who had died when they were younger. Just one more day with their dad. My wife, Ann, I don't think she'd mind me telling you. My wife, Ann, was in a lot of tears watching that movie, man. There was a lot of tears watching Onward. Like special tears, not thank God this movie sucks so bad. No, it was like special tears. And so that is a movie that has a very, very special place for Ann and I, because of that experience we had watching that. The fun of it being a D&D adventure kind of, but also the whole aspect about the dad. And it just hit my wife very hard. My wife still misses her dad very much. My father-in-law was a really good man. Anyway, Soul is also wonderful. Here's my thoughts on this. I don't think either Onward or Soul are in like the top 3 or 4 best Pixar films of all time, but they're both great. I enjoyed them both very thoroughly. If I personally had to pick one that I thought was better from my own subjective opinion, I'd probably lean towards Soul. I'll probably lean towards Soul. But that's not taking anything away from from Onward, which I thought was a really fun little movie. I thought Onward was a really nice little movie too. Anyway, let's see here. Where are we at? Thanks for that, Zeke. Next up, Raymond Verrata writes, I didn't know Tamura Morrison released an acoustic album of classic songs in 2014 called Tem. I had no idea about that either. I guess bounty hunting isn't what it used to be. I guess we can rename the album Tem, the Spotify album of Boba Fett. Oh, again, instead of the book of Boba Fett. I had no idea, but you know what's funny? It is weird for me always finding out, whenever we find out about certain actors or celebrities also have albums or things like that, right? Like obviously there's Jared Leto with his band. That's one too. But like, I remember finding out that Russell Crowe, who's my favorite actor is Russell Crowe, that he had put out some albums. I'm like, really? And tomorrow I had no idea, but now I'm going to have to go look that up, Raymond. Thanks a lot for that. Now I'm going to have to go look that up. Thanks for sharing, dude. Okay, let's see here. Next up, the Za writes, one of two. Hey, John. A thought just crossed my mind, and I wanted your feedback. Raya and the Last Dragon is confirmed to have both a theatrical release as well as a premiere access release day and date. Yep, it's the one film that Disney said they're doing that. It's going to be released on Disney Plus as a premium access, so probably have to pay $30 for it, even if you're a Disney Plus subscriber. And it'll be in certain theaters. Yes. Whereas Mulan was only a premium access title for Disney Plus and only got a theatrical release in countries where Disney Plus isn't available. I believe this strategy will work for Raya. Do you think Disney will try this release strategy going forward into 2021, going on a film by film basis, unlike Warner Brothers giving up 2021 altogether? Here's the thing. When they put out Mulan, right? When Disney Plus decided to move Mulan to Disney Plus, we now know it was probably partially because they knew the movie wasn't all that good. I was very excited about Mulan, but at any rate, when they did the Mulan experiment and put Mulan on Disney Plus for premium access, that you had to be a Disney Plus subscriber and you had to pay $30 to watch it, the result was an unmitigated disaster. It was a complete, utter failure for them. And they know it. Many articles have been written about it. It was a complete disaster. But, you know, in the days and weeks after that, you know, when people were saying, oh, Disney will never do that again, one of the things that I told you guys is, oh, no, they'll do it again. Because as big of a disaster as Mulan was with their whole premium access thing, and it pissed a lot of their subscribers off, as big of a disaster as it was, the reality is it's too small of a sample size. One try is too small of a sample size to really evaluate whether that can be a successful model for them or not. I said they've got to do it one or two more times. Even though the Mulan experiment was a complete failure, they have to try it at least one, maybe even two more times just to get a better sample size. Because making big, massive company direction decisions based on one experiment isn't good business. So I wasn't surprised. Actually, two things I wasn't surprised by. I wasn't surprised at all that Raya and the Last Dragon was going to do it because honestly, I've heard Raya and the Last Dragon is a bit of a mess. Just between you and me, I've heard Raya and the Last Dragon is an absolute mess. And that makes me very sad because when I was at D23, more excited than the Obi-Wan announcement, more excited about anything else that came out of D23, and I was there. The thing I loved that I saw the most was the preview they showed us for Raya and the Last Dragon. It looked awesome. And I was very excited about it. You guys, if you guys were watching me at the time, you guys know I was super stoked about it. But I have heard the movie's a total mess. They changed directors, they changed voice talent, they changed stories, they changed, apparently it's a total disaster. Now, maybe the end result will be good. Maybe they'll fix everything and it'll be good. But right now I'm hearing it's a disaster. So I'm not surprised that they're going to try putting that on premium. So that's one thing that didn't surprise me, that they announced at least one. But I'm also wasn't surprised that they only announced one. Some people thought they'd get more premium access titles listed, but I was not surprised that they named one, and I'm certainly not surprised that that one was Raya and the Last Dragon. But I also wasn't surprised that they only did one. They are still kind of experimenting with this. The first try, total failure. Maybe the second one will do a little bit better. Maybe it'll also do terrible. And then they'll probably try it at least one more time. They'll try it at least one more time. By the way, Big Pat in the live chat is asking, is Black Widow only coming to theaters or Disney Plus will carry it too? It's only coming to theaters, which surprised me, but they said at the Disney event that it's going to be a theatrical exclusive release. Most of the movies they announced are going to be theatrical exclusive release anyway. So yeah, not surprised they're going to try it. And let's see if it does better than Mulan did. I honestly don't know. I'm not expecting it to do better. I'm not expecting it to do worse. I'm not sure how it's going to do. I'm going to be as interested as everybody else to see how it actually does. But it can't do any worse than Mulan did. I mean, that was a big miss for them. All right, next up. Kevin Yu writes, people are using Jeff Johns as a scapegoat for the faults of Wonder Woman 84 in terms of the 80s vibe and story flaws. I think this is unfair, as Jeff Johns has done great work in film and TV and comics. He has not done great work in film. No, he hasn't. He hasn't done anything in film. He's written a couple of episodes of television, which weren't bad, but I know there was a couple of his episodes that he wrote that weren't great, but he has done great things in the comics. He has done great things in the comics. But, comics and movies are two different things. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this? And is it a bad day at the office? I think we do see a lot of people. I think we've seen a lot of people come out and try to let Patty Jenkins off the hook as a director. And I'm a big Patty Jenkins fan, but I think we've seen a lot of people try to get Patty Jenkins off the hook by saying, oh, it's probably Jeff Johns, because he was the writer on it too with Patty Jenkins. He was probably the one that why Wonder Woman 84 didn't work. My response to that is this. The first person that should get credit and should get blame for the success or failure of something is the director. You're the director. You're in charge. You're the first person that is going to get the majority of the praise, which Patty Jenkins got for the first Wonder Woman movie, rightfully so. But if you're in the director chair, you're also the first person that has to be looked at when things don't go well. It's the same is true of Spielberg. The same is true of J.J. Abrams. The same is true of any director. You're the first person they look at when things go well. You're the first person that gets looked at. Now, for all we know, Jeff Johns, some people are suggesting that Jeff Johns, he was actually the writer in charge. And he's the one who probably came up with all the bad ideas. We have no way to know that. Jeff Johns and Patty Jenkins wrote the script. At least they're both credited as the actual screenwriters. The actual people who wrote the script is both of them. So maybe it was Jeff Johns' faults. Maybe, but we have nothing to suggest that was definitely true. So I think, I've always been concerned about Jeff Johns, a comic book writer, being involved in the big screen stuff. I've always been concerned about that, but I have seen no evidence presented to me to definitively say that the problems with Wonder Woman 84 were Jeff Johns' fault. I have seen no evidence to suggest that. Patty Jenkins was the director. She was also one of the screenwriters. So Jeff Johns takes part of the blame, yes, but until I see evidence that says otherwise, Patty Jenkins has got to take a good amount of the blame too. And I say that as a Patty Jenkins fan. I'm a big Patty Jenkins fan, but she's got to take a good chunk of the responsibility for it. And hopefully she'll learn from it and move on. All right. Next up, an anonymous viewer writes, hey, John, thank you for your Wonder Woman 84 review. It was a long review, but I enjoyed it. I noticed it went past 5 hours. It did. We see your commitment to fans and appreciate it. Did you see the deep fake they did for Sebastian Stan's face superimposed on Luke in the Mandalorian finale? I was like you and thought no to Sebastian Stan, but now I changed mind. I don't base... Here's the thing. I do not base whether I think somebody should play a role on do they look like the person. I've never based my thoughts about casting on anything ever on that. That is the worst thing to base casting on. Just go back. One of the big complaints, a lot of people don't remember this now because Twitter wasn't around. But when Hugh Jackman was cast as Wolverine, everybody shit puppies. Everybody was pissed. He's Wolverine. That dude's like 6'1". Actually, how tall? Hold on, let me just look this up here. Now I'm just curious. This isn't important. How tall is Hugh Jackman? I think he's 6'1". 6'3". 6'3". I should know that. I stood beside him and he's like a good 2 inches taller than me, maybe more. Okay, so Hugh Jackman, what, the song and dance man? Because all he had ever really done was like Broadway show kind of stuff. He was a song and dance man, right? He was that pretty boy, 6'3". He looks nothing like Wolverine. He can't be Wolverine. Now none of us can imagine anybody other than Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. He looked nothing like the character. It didn't matter. That's not what was important. And so with the Sebastian Stan, listen, I like Sebastian Stan. I've had Sebastian Stan come into my studio and sit down with me to do one-on-ones. I like the dude very much. I'm not saying he shouldn't be Luke, but this whole thing about, wow, he looks like him. We should cast, that to me is like the most unimportant thing. I mean, it's a thing. I'm not going to say it's not a thing, but it shouldn't be close to being the deciding factor at all. What they look like is not what should be the deciding factor. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I'm not saying you go out and somebody who's completely the opposite of Luke. Don't go get a 350 pound, zitty faced, whatever dude. I'm not suggesting that, but that part just isn't important to me. So we'll see. But hey, listen, if someday they cast Sebastian Stan to be the new Luke Skywalker, I've got no problem with it, because all I care about is, do you cast people with talent? And Sebastian's a guy with talent. So I'd be all fine for it. It's just not the prerequisite for me because he looks like him. That means nothing to me. But that's just me. All right, next up. Cody Cordy writes, hey, John, I hope you're having a good day. Wondering what your favorite film of the year is, and your top 10. I don't do top 10 lists, just so you know. At least certainly not during Q&As. But mine, number 10, Bad Boys. But I liked Bad Boys. Bad Boys was fun. Number 9, Extraction. I hated Extraction. I thought that movie was terrible. Some terrific action scenes, but I thought the movie was really bad. Number 8, The Gentleman. That is my second favorite movie of the year. Number 7, The Way Back was great. Number 6, Ma Rainey's BB. Number 5, To Five Bloods, which we just talked about. Number 4, The King of Staten Island. I was a little underwhelmed with The King of Staten Island, to be honest with you. Anyway, number 3, Soul. Number 2, Tenet. Number 1, Trial of the Chicago 7. So I'll tell you my top 3. You know what? No, I'm not even. I'll give you my top 2. The Gentleman is my number 2 favorite film of the year. It was my favorite film of the year until I saw my favorite film of the year, which was Trial of the Chicago 7. I would also, in no particular order, I'm just naming some honorable mentions here. To Five Bloods was great. One of my favorite films of this year was Old Guard. If you want to talk about a Netflix original action movie, get Extraction out of here. Get that out of here. Old Guard with Charlize Theron. Old Guard. I loved that movie. That movie was terrific. I really, really liked that. But listen, I know a lot of people liked King of Staten Island. A lot of people liked Extraction. That's all great. But for me personally, yeah, my top 2, Trial of Chicago 7 and The Gentleman. I know I like The Gentleman more than most people do, but I loved that. It was great classic Guy Ritchie kind of cinema. You know what I mean? And I totally ate that up. Let's see. Next up, we got Scott Brown, who writes, thanks, John. I haven't seen Sixth Sense yet. Just kidding. I just wanted to say thank you for your show. With my dad passing, I'm sorry to hear about that. My mom's health, the pandemic, and everything else we've all had to deal with this year. Your show is a nice place where my mind can take a break. Well, listen, that's the great thing about movies and the movie fan community. It gives us a great chance to give our mind a bit of a break. It is. And listen, we've been told a lot this year. Both myself, Aaron, Rob, we've gotten a lot of messages this year about people, saying thank you for us doing this show every day to give us that break from the crap that is 2020. But it's also been, we have to thank you because it's been that for us as well. The ability and the honor of doing this show every day has been that for us too. So it's just great to be a part of a fan community like that. And anyway, thanks for being a part of it, Scott. I appreciate it, man. And sorry for spoiling the end of Sixth Sense for you. All right, next up. Thanks, Scott. Next up, Qui-Gon Gin and Tonic writes, one of two. Hey, John. I like to watch movies as soon as they come out to avoid spoilers and make my own opinion on it before the critics subliminally change my preconceptions of the film. I find it frustrating living in the UK. By the time it comes out next month, I will already know so much about the film. I'm guessing you're talking about Wonder Woman. I don't know. I will already know so much about the film that I will lose interest. I don't go looking for spoilers, but it's inevitable. Secondly, Prime Rogue One Vader, angry, no emotion connection to Luke, versus Prime post Return of the Jedi Vader. Who wins? Luke. Yeah, Luke. Luke wins that fight. Again, in a lot of the Legends stuff, and it's been implied, and at least in my own head, as a fan, in my own head, Luke becomes the most powerful Jedi ever. Again, following the chronological order of events in Star Wars, Palpatine says to Yoda about Vader, he will become more powerful than either of us. And he does. And then Luke supersedes him. And so Luke, to me, is kind of that pinnacle. So I go, and there could be some very good arguments against this, but I say Prime Luke Skywalker. Sometime after the events of Return of the Jedi, Prime Luke Skywalker would take out Prime Anakin Skywalker. I'm going with that. There may be those of you disagree. You might have some really, really good arguments against why I think that, but that's the way it is in my head. And obviously Luke is my favorite character, so I'm going to say Luke. All right, next up, we've got an anonymous viewer who writes, do you think Zeus could be in Wonder Woman 3? He's been referenced multiple times, and it can be a better way to explain the weird lassoing lightning bolts. There you go again. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Yes. I think it would be a missed opportunity. Listen, if you're saying Zeus is her father, I think it's a missed opportunity to not bring Zeus into it. And listen, here's the other thing that suggests maybe they will. Remember, Patty Jenkins has said that not only is she working on Wonder Woman 3, she is working on an Amazon standalone, right? Like an Amazon spinoff thing, right? And maybe in that Amazon spinoff, we get to see, the union of what made Diana. So maybe we get to see Zeus. Well, John, the Wonder Woman thing, Ares killed the guy. It doesn't, none of that matters. So maybe we actually get to see Zeus in an Amazon spinoff movie. And then maybe we also see him in Wonder Woman 3. So I'm going to, you know what? It's just a pure speculation guess. But my pure speculation guess is yes. I think we're going to see Zeus. And I think it would be great to have him in there. All right, next up. An anonymous viewer writes in a $50 tip. Holy crap. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, dude. All right, here we go. Tom Brady isn't the GOAT. Oh, he absolutely is. Yeah. Ask any NFL vet. Ask any of the commentators, ask any of the pundits of things. You ask him who's the GOAT, they'll all tell you Tom Brady. Tom Brady isn't the GOAT. He absolutely is. He's an average quarterback, really, who was part of an arguably weakest quarterback class in NFL history. Patriots were already a Super Bowl contender when he got drafted. Oh, see, it's easy to say that. No, they weren't. And they wouldn't have won 6 Super Bowls without him. And what happened? They were the divisional champions. He leaves, goes to a team at the age of 43, goes to a team that hasn't been in the playoffs since I can't remember how long. What is it, 6-7 years? And his first year there, he's got them at 10-5 right now, and they're making the playoffs for the first time in forever. What happened to the New England Patriots? They've won the division for 500 years in a row with Tom Brady. First year that he's not there, they have the first time they've had a losing record almost in my memory. And they don't make the playoffs, and they suck. What's the common denominator? Tom Brady, a 42, 43-year-old Tom Brady. So yeah, don't give me this. He's not the GOAT. Oh, he just won. You just take that weak sauce out of here. Every NFL vet knows that Tom Brady's the GOAT. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like him, but he's a winner. And there's a reason he has 6 rings on his finger. And there's a reason he has all those MVPs. There's a reason he has like all those records and accolades. He's the best there is, best there is. He is the Brett the Hitman Hart of, the quarterback position. Best there is, best there was, best there ever will be. I mean, he's not the best there is right now. I take that back. Like, there are quarterbacks that have surpassed him today. I don't think Tom Brady's 43 years old. He is not the best version of Tom Brady we've always had. He is in his declining years. There's no doubt about that. But I'll tell you what, while a Mahomes, a Russell Wilson, an Aaron Rodgers, while there are a number of quarterbacks that if I was making an NFL team today for a full season, there are a number of quarterbacks I would take before Tom Brady. Today. Absolutely there are. But if I was an imaginary GM, if I, like Steve Trevor, was just magically teleported into the body of a GM the day before the Super Bowl, even today, and I had to pick one quarterback to lead my team, not for a full season, but in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady's the most clutch player of all time. I would take, if I was going to the Super Bowl tomorrow and I needed one quarterback for one game, I would take Tom Brady even before a Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or whatever. I would take him like that. If it was for a whole year and a season, yeah, there's 4 or 5 other quarterbacks I would take before Tom Brady today. Yes. But if for one game in a Super Bowl, I'm taking the guy with 6 rings. I'm taking the guy who's finished putting the Infinity Stones together in his GOAT gauntlet. Tom Brady's got the GOAT gauntlet. So yeah, all Tom Brady all day, every day. Anyway, there you go. All right. Thanks for writing that in though, man. All right. An anonymous viewer also writes in, use Robert Pattinson for the solo Batman movies and then use Ben Affleck or his replacement for the team up movies. We don't need solo Batman films in the Justice League universe. Yeah. So this is all coming off of that one interview with Walter Hamada, the president of DC Films, when he was basically suggesting we're going to run 2 separate Batman at the same time, which means we're also going to have 2 separate franchises at the same time. One with the, in its own universe, the Robert Pattinson Batman, and one, the Ben Affleck Batman that is now going to be played by somebody else. Who that'll be, we don't know yet, but it is kind of weird. I don't mind the way you're setting that up either. Pattinson for a total isolated solo Batman universe, just like Christopher Nolan's Batman was. Christopher Nolan's Batman was a completely isolated universe Batman. Completely isolated universe Batman. There wasn't 15 other superheroes running around Gotham. It was Batman. And maybe you treat Robert Pattinson's Batman like that. And then you have the larger scale cinematic universe Batman going on in the other films. That could be what they're building up to. Let's see here. Garrett Couch writes, have to say I'm much more excited for the Matt Reeves Batman. If that trailer came from only a small portion of the movie, I can't wait for the rest. But this also comes from someone who loved Planet of the Apes trilogy. Still, the more Batman, the better. Hey, listen, remember, Matt Reeves didn't direct all of them. Matt Reeves didn't direct the first one, by the way. Matt Reeves didn't direct the first Planet of the Apes one. But yeah, I really like the Planet of the Apes trilogy too. The third one was a little bit of a drop off. I'm not a big fan of War for the Planet of the Apes. That was one of the most misleading marketing campaigns ever. Every single thing they have in the trailer is like not in the movie. And the whole trailer and everything makes you feel like this is the movie where we're going to see this giant war between the apes and humans. And that never happens. It was a totally bullshit marketing campaign. The movie's good. I just didn't like it as much as the other two. But yeah, listen, man, no doubt. I am super stoked for this Batman movie. Obviously, I wanted a Ben Affleck directed and starring in Batman movie. That's what I wanted. But I'm totally good getting a Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman. I'm excited about that one too. Yes, I would have wanted the Ben Affleck one. That's what I wanted. But if I can't have that one, Matt Reeves directing a Batman film with Robert Pattinson, who's really evolved into one of the finer actors in the world right now. Everybody who's seen his indie work the last bunch of years agrees with that. That's something to be excited about. So I'm really looking forward to that too, Garrett. All right, next up, Captain Blue Pants writes, more Batman? Really? There's hundreds of DC characters that can be developed into films. I love Batman, but it's 40 years of him. Can we get one Man of Steel sequel? One? Also, my friends barely understand why TV Flash wasn't in Justice League. They struggle with this. I mean, they're just tell them it's two separate universes. And just tell them it's the same reason why Daniel Day-Lewis wasn't Abraham Lincoln in Bill and Ted Save the World, or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Well, wait, I saw a movie that they had Abraham Lincoln. How come that wasn't the Abraham Lincoln in the Steven Spielberg film? Two separate stories. Just get them to understand that. I mean, look, here's the thing. What everybody forgets is this. Somebody wrote in the other day, and I get the frustration. Somebody wrote in the other day and was saying, like, why are we getting Wonder Woman 3 when we can't even get Man of Steel 2? Huh? How did we get a Wonder Woman sequel and not a Man of Steel sequel? And I understand that frustration because I'm the world's biggest Man of Steel fan. I still got Henry Cavill over there watching me, keeping an eye, keeping everything safe here. How you doing, Henry? You guys have seen my Man of Steel standee. Anyway, he's right over there in the corner, watching over me, protecting me. Anyway, but why? Well, the answer is easy. They made one Man of Steel movie, and while I know it was a masterpiece, a lot of people hate that movie. A lot of people hate Man of Steel. And the reality is, it underperformed. It did all right. I mean, it made 600 plus, but everybody knew the potential for that was much higher. So it underperformed. Half the audience hated it. Half the critics hated it. And that was the result they got. Now we get our first Wonder Woman movie. What happened with the Wonder Woman movie? Well, audiences loved it. Critics loved it. And it was a much bigger success at the box office. It made in the 800 millions. So here you have two first movies. Man of Steel, totally divisive amongst the fans, totally divisive amongst the critics, and kind of even though it did all right, it kind of underperformed at the box office. Versus Wonder Woman, massive hit with the audience, massive hit with the critics, big hit at the box office, exceeded all their expectations. Which one are you going to move forward on a sequel? Now, I would have made Man of Steel too, but that's just me. But you can understand the logic about why they hesitate on Man. And then they put out Batman versus Superman. And still a lot of people don't like the Henry Cavill iteration of Superman, which to me is utterly ridiculous. Henry Cavill to me is my favorite Superman of all time. And yes, I include Christopher Reeve in that. To me, Henry Cavill is the greatest Superman of all time. That's just me. But not everybody agrees. Actually, a lot of people disagree. So then they hated him in that. Is that going to make you as a studio executive rush out to make another Man of Steel? Doesn't matter how much John Campea wants it. Although that should be the only thing Warner Brothers cares about. What does John Campea want? And that's what we do. If they did, we would have had a Man of Steel 2 by now. I'll tell you that much. Anyway. They would also probably be run out of business. They did what Campea wanted. But, I mean, it's really not rocket science. Why are we getting this and not this? Well, because they've had more success with this instead of that. But listen, we know J.J. Abrams is going to be bringing us a new Superman. And I believe it'll be Henry Cavill. I don't know that for sure, but I believe it's going to be Henry Cavill. We've known this for a while. We are going to get another Man of Steel. Hang tight, man. Hang tight. Okay, just got time for a couple more here, guys. Where we at? James writes, "Hi, John. James from Australia here." Hello, James from Australia. "Interesting thing about Wonder Woman 84 was that Gal Gadot was an executive producer. Margot Robbie was executive producer for Birds of Prey. MCU never does this. I almost think this is how MCU lasted until now. What are your thoughts?" I mean, here's the thing. A lot of the times, the term producer is just honorary. Like, to be real, the term producer is quite often honorary. You're going to see a movie where you could see up to 15 or 20 people, 15 to 20 people with the term producer beside their name on the credits of a thing. Between producer, executive producer, more executive producers, associate producers, assistant producers, co-producers, blah, blah, blah. All these. Quite often, the term producer is an honorary one, where it's just like something you negotiate. I want a producer credit. Okay. Listen, we talked a lot about it before. Steven Spielberg, I think, has hundreds of credits as a producer. And I guarantee you on a lot of those films, he didn't really do anything. Maybe he had a meeting. Maybe he made a phone call. Maybe he did something little or whatever, and they put him on as producer. They gave him a producer credit. Maybe a producer credit, an executive producer credit, a co-producer credit, an associate producer, whatever. They put producer on his name, right? A producer is the linchpin of an entire movie. The actual true producer of a movie is really the one that puts it all together. They're the one who secures the rights to the story, the script, gets the director, puts all the things together, and then primarily makes sure that the director gets everything they need to bring it out. It gets on the same page with the director, blah, blah, blah. The director is the most important person when it comes to actually executing the movie, but actually getting the existence of the movie comes down to the producer. But the term producer is a very, very loosely defined term that you can have one guy in a movie called producer who literally worked for 16 hours a day for 3 years straight on making sure this movie got pulled off and pulled off right. And then another person on the credits can also have a producer credit who maybe took 2 lunch meetings and made 1 phone call. And yet they both get the term producer beside their name. It is a very, very weird thing. And I feel like DC gives out producer credits to their stars sometimes. I don't think that's either a good or a bad thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's either a good or a bad thing. And, Michael Brommer's writing, who gets to hold the Oscar? Yeah, at the Oscars, there's a reason. When the Oscar gets awarded, the true producer of the movie is the one who accepts the award. It's the producer of the movie that accepts the Best Picture award. Now, sometimes they bring the directors up with them, and even sometimes they'll allow the directors to come and take it and say a few words. But generally, traditionally, it's the producer of the film that is the one that accepts the Best Picture award. But yeah, I think it's just being handed out as an honorary thing, whatever, for the DC. But again, I don't think that's a good or a bad thing. There's no harm, no foul. I don't think it makes one thing better than the other. It just kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? All right. Anyway, next up. We're at Shane Sakaya writes, Wonder Woman 84 items. Wonder Woman got hit with bullets in weak form and it broke skin, but didn't penetrate. How about in full form? I asked about Wonder Woman being bulletproof 2 weeks ago, and the movie sort of addressed it. Is she? Also, did Barbara get 2 wishes? Hard to say, but we've covered the Barbara stuff enough already. So I refer you back to all the stuff we've already talked about Barbara. Here's the thing. I don't have anything definitive to back this up with, but I believe that the movies suggest that Wonder Woman in the movies is not bulletproof. Because if she was bulletproof, why would they constantly show her blocking bullets with her wrist guards, right? Why would you block bullets that don't hurt you anyway? Why they need to block the bullets? They don't hurt her. They don't hurt her. So why would she have to block them? And unless I'm mistaken, I don't believe, and if this has happened, please send me something, but I can't recall any time in Wonder Woman, Batman vs. Superman, or Justice League where Wonder Woman actually got shot with a bullet. And it showed us that the bullet bounces off her. I don't believe we've seen that. Every time she's actually getting shot at, she's blocking them with either her lasso or a shield in the World War scene with a shield, or with her wrist bracelets, right? So that suggests to me that Wonder Woman in the movie is not actually bulletproof. And whereas you could say, well, in the scene of Wonder Woman 1984, her getting shot and bleeding is a sign that she's starting to lose her powers. I interpreted it, and I might be wrong, I interpreted it as her inability to see the shot coming and block it is what suggested she was losing her powers. Not that the bullet pierced her skin. Because if the bullet doesn't pierce her skin, why does she ever go through the hassle of having to block the shots? I don't know. I don't have the definitive answer. I hope Wonder Woman 3. I hope Wonder Woman 83 suggests and tells us definitively, is she bulletproof or not? Because if she is bulletproof, why does she go through all this hassle to block bullets all the time? She doesn't need to. Just be like Superman. Ha ha ha. By the way, can I just say, one of my favorite shots in any comic book movie is still that one shot from Brandon Routh's Superman Returns, when the one guy points the gun at Clark, fires the gun, and you see the bullet. Like, whatever you think about the movie Superman Returns, that shot where the bullet is coming at Clark and he's just standing there like this, and the bullet hits him in the eyeball, and the bullet just crushes and falls down. That is a glorious shot. Like, you might hate that movie, but even if you do, you got to admit that shot was awesome. But it's like people shooting at Superman. He's bulletproof. He doesn't go, ooh, I got to duck and dodge the bullets. Ooh, I better find something to block the bullets with. No, he doesn't do that. Why? Because he's bulletproof. So if the DCU is saying Wonder Woman is bulletproof, why does she have to go through this whole song and dance to try to avoid being shot? So again, that just leads me to think she's not bulletproof, but maybe they'll say more definitively, maybe they'll say, make it more clear, more definitive in Wonder Woman 3. We'll see. All right. Next up, was that Shane? Yes. Martin writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, man. For Disney Plus and HBO Max, are those numbers worldwide, as HBO is not available outside of America, at least not in the UK, which could explain the difference? Well, listen, if you go back and watch the video, I specifically point out 4 asterisks you've got to keep in mind. When looking at the way that like Soul and Disney Plus dominated HBO and Wonder Woman, you've got to look, there are 4 asterisks, and Robert and I pointed all 4 of these out in our video. Asterisk number 1, you have to take into consideration that Wonder Woman did $16 million in business at the box office. Now, that's pathetic in non-COVID era, but in the midst of a big pandemic, that's not bad, $16 million. So that's $16 million worth of people, at average of $10 a ticket, whatever. That is a bunch of people that don't need to go home and sign up for HBO Max because they went to go see it in the theater. So you got to take that in consideration. Another thing you have to take in consideration is the price difference between HBO Max and Disney Plus. HBO Max is roughly double the price of Disney Plus. So when looking at new subscriber rates, that's another asterisk that you have to put beside it there, right? That's another one. One of the other asterisks that I point out is the number of markets that Disney Plus is in versus HBO Max, right? The number of markets that are there. And what is the fourth one that I put? Oh, and the fourth asterisk you have to put in there is the fact that, and Rob pointed this one out, Mandalorian. You know, Mandalorian has just finished season 2 and the whole world exploded with enthusiasm at that Luke thing. That probably became a rallying point for a bunch of people to go and sign up for Disney Plus as well. Although why they wouldn't have signed up while Mandalorian season 2 was running, I'm not sure, but that probably wasn't it. So it's not just one asterisk you have to put beside there. There are a number of asterisks. The price difference, the fact that it made $16 million in the box office, the fact that there's the Mandalorian effect has to be taken into consideration, and the number of markets. That Disney Plus is in more markets than HBO. It just is. Now, there's other factors as well that don't work in HBO's favor. Like if you take into consideration a percentage of market reach, listen, Disney Plus has a lot more subscribers in America than HBO does. That means there are a lot more potential brand new customers for HBO to go and sign up, whereas there are more who have already signed up for Disney Plus. So why did it still only get so many numbers? I mean, so you could look at all that kind of stuff too, but yes, As in anything where you're dealing with statistics and numbers, there are extenuating circumstances and other factors you have to take into mind. And in the case of Disney so outperforming HBO Max, you got to keep in mind the Mandalorian effect. You got to keep in mind the price of the service. You got to keep in mind the 16 million of people went to go see it in theaters instead, so they don't need to get HBO Max. And you got to keep in mind the number of markets that it's available in, because Disney has a lot more. So those are all absolutely factors. There are other factors that don't work in Warner Brothers' favor too. We didn't go into those. But there are absolutely other factors you have to keep in mind as well. Absolutely. And that's why we pointed them out in our video. All right, next up. Mickey Alteri writes, now that Robert Rodriguez has a working relationship with Disney through Mandalorian and Boba Fett, do you think an Alita sequel has a better chance of happening now than it did even a few months ago? No, I don't. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not me saying... Let me just pull this up. Alita box office. That's not me saying that it doesn't have a chance. I just don't think it has any more of a chance. I thought it had a chance to get a sequel before. I still think there is a chance that it could get a sequel now. But, you know, Big Papa Iger and now Bob Chapek and whatever, these guys, one of the things they're desperately going to look at that is not, whether Robert Rodriguez is working with us now. They're going to look at this number down here. Worldwide, this movie lost money. Not a lot. Not a lot. It actually came very close to breaking even, but it only made $404 million. This was a movie that there was some expectation could be a $700, $800 million movie. And the launch to a big franchise. And the reality is, it only made like 400 million. Now, there are a lot of movies that would kill to have 400. Now, if we go over to the critic scores, let me bring this up here. It got a 61%, which means the majority of people who watched it, the majority of the critics, not a huge majority, but a definite majority of critics who watched it liked it. The audience score, this was a score before Rotten Tomatoes implemented their verified audience scores. So I've always said IMDb audience scores and Rotten Tomato audience scores, unless it says verified audience scores, just ignore that. So don't worry about that, the audience score number. I liked Alita. I thought it was pretty good. But in deciding whether or not to do another Alita movie, the Disney execs are going to look at the first one. How was it received? And did it do business? And those are going to be the two main points of struggle for it. So I still believe there's a chance they could do it. I just don't think the chance is any better or any worse now that Robert Rodriguez is kind of in the Disney family a little bit, working on the Star Wars stuff. There's still a chance, but I don't think it's any better of a chance because those box office numbers haven't changed. And that's going to be the first thing that Big Papa Iger is going to look at. So that's kind of my thought on that. But yeah, I like Alita. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the first trailer was terrible. I think that hurt it a lot. But yeah, I like the movie. I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed it. I had fun. All right, next up. E. Diddy from the City writes. E. Diddy from the City writes. Patty Jenkins is a great director, but maybe she had too much control over Wonder Woman 84. Not using Snyder's stunt team is glaring. Oh, that had nothing to do with it. Regardless of how people feel about his movies, no one can deny they look visually amazing. Hey, listen, the one thing you can never take away from Zack Snyder, he is a great visual storyteller. Like, let's even go back to what I consider to be his absolute worst movie, which is Sucker Punch. Only Zack Snyder movie I don't like. And it is terrible, even though, you know, one of Ann's friends is in it. It's terrible. But even though Zack Snyder's worst film and the movie's awful, you put that movie on mute. I'm telling you, you put on Sucker Punch on your TV and hit play and then turn off the volume. Just put it on mute and make up your own story in your head as you go along. That is still a really beautiful movie to watch. Zack Snyder is great at the visual aspect of storytelling. He is a visual storyteller. And even his worst film is actually worth watching, even if you put it on mute, because he's just that good of a visual storyteller. So yeah, his visuals are incredible, but I mean, he had no visual input on the first Wonder Woman, so that's not a thing either. Look, again, we're all looking for a reason. Here's the thing. We are all looking for, everybody seems to be trying to come up with, what's the reason? Why did Wonder Woman 84 not work as well as the first Wonder Woman did? What's the reason? Was it Jeff Johns? Is that our scapegoat? Was it this, that, or the other thing? Was that the scapegoat? Was it that Patty Jenkins had too much creative control? Is that the scapegoat? I would say none of that is the thing. Listen, and the reason we all look for scapegoats is it comes down to a common big error in perception that a lot of movie fans have, which is making good movies is easy. There are so many movie fans that just think making a great movie is easy. Oh yeah, just make a great movie. And whenever there's a bad movie, like so many film fans, we go, wow, why didn't they care? Obviously, they didn't care about the movie if it wasn't good. Making a good movie that people like and enjoy it's Herculean. It's ridiculously difficult and very hard to do. And so that's why every filmmaker, including Spielberg himself, will have a bad day at the office. So I think, again, the fact that so many of us, and I've done it too, that so many of us are running around looking for, what's the reason? Why did Wonder Woman 1984 not work? Why did it not work? Was it his fault? Was it her fault? Was it that fault? I think just at the end of the day, it's a matter of, hey, listen, they made a movie. It did not work out as well. And it didn't work out as well as the other ones. They made some good ones. The last Wonder Woman movie was great. This one didn't work out as well. So instead of just looking for what went wrong, just go, okay, they had a bad day at the office. They'll figure it out and they'll move on and hopefully make a better one next time. So yeah, that's just kind of my take on it at any rate. Okay, man, we've gone overtime today, but it's the last show of the year. Next one up. Thanks for sending that in, E. Diddy. I like the name of that name, the sound of that name too. All right, Jesse writes, I think what Disney Plus's bump shows us is what Black Panther showed us, and that's the African American audiences. People want to see characters they can relate to, and a big Pixar film about the African American community is surely an aspect of Soul's success. I don't believe that's the magic bullet of it, Jesse, but that's absolutely a factor. There's no doubt that's one of the factors. And I know that specifically because a number of people have written into the show to tell me how special it was for them to finally see a Pixar film that they love with, their representation as the lead characters. We'd never had that in a Pixar film before. And a number of people have written into me to tell me how special that was for them. Like, it's kind of, I give this example. There's this MMA fighter, and for whatever reason, his name's eluding me. His nickname is the Legionnaire, right? And he's an Italian MMA fighter. There's not a lot of Italian MMA fighters in the UFC. Very, very few Italian fighters in the UFC. And I remember when I saw the Legionnaire dude come into the ring with an Italian flag, I remember feeling this huge sense of pride. I remember feeling this huge sense of pride. And that's just minor. I mean, I see lots of pasty white dudes get in the ring. I mean, it is what it is. But I remember when he came in that ring and he came down carrying an Italian flag. And I was just like, I was just overjoyed. And I don't know why. There was part of me that kind of identified with it a bit. And I don't know. I just felt proud of it. I've instantly found myself rooting for him. And that's just on a small level. And I think then you now transpose that to the whole idea of, what what Soul represented to a lot of people too. You got to take that in consideration. So do I think it's the main magic bullet, that was the defining reason why Soul performed so well? No, I don't think it's the defining reason, but it's certainly one of the significant factors. Of that, I have absolutely no doubt. Okay, next up, we got Paul Rubens who writes, so porn is meant, I get it, Pee Wee Herman's real name is Paul Rubens. So porn is meant to be a shared experience on the big screen? Could have fooled me, of course. That's a reference to way back in the day. For those of you who may not know about this, go look it up. Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman. The big controversy was he was busted in a porn movie theater masturbating in public. I don't know if you guys remember that, but yeah, so that's that thing. Thanks for taking us back there. Thanks for taking us back. All right, Dear John writes, what would the impact on pop culture have been had the deaths in Infinity War been permanent? Nothing. No pop culture effects, really. They just would have done Endgame, would have been a very, very different movie, and the MCU would look different today. Obviously, we wouldn't have Spider-Man movies, but here's the thing. One of the other reasons that it really wouldn't have had that big of an impact, because they still would have made Endgame, and it would have been different, but it still would have been huge and amazing and blah, blah, blah. But here's the other thing. It is the Marvel fake death universe. So even if the unsnapping didn't happen, even if Hulk didn't snap his fingers wearing the gauntlet and bring everybody back, Marvel would have found another way to bring all the characters back that they want back. The way they brought Gamora back, or the way they bring Loki back, or the way they bring anybody back. I mean, they just would have found another way. So on both levels, I really don't think there would have been much difference on the pop cultural scene. I really don't. They would have made Endgame. They would have made a great Endgame movie. It would have been different. And then they would have found a way to bring some of those other characters back regardless. Whether it's a clone or from another timeline or whatever excuse they want to come up with, they would find some way to bring some of them back, the ones that they would really need. All right, next up, John S. writes, hey, John, I keep hearing people talk about Soul and Wonder Woman 84 being the Christmas movies. However, Tom Hanks's News of the World also released Christmas week. Have you seen it? And what are your thoughts? I still haven't, but it looks good. No, I've had no opportunity to see it. Because I have no movie theaters open around me. And actually, it's funny because Ann and I were just talking about that. Because you know how Ann feels about, Papa Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is that's her favorite celebrity of all time. It is the only celebrity. Every celebrity that Ann has wanted to meet, I have been able to arrange for her to meet. Except for Tom Hanks. Her ultimate favorite human being on the face of the earth. Tom Hanks. It is the one dude I haven't come close to being able to introduce Ann to. I personally have only ever bumped into him once, and say like big fan. I've never interviewed him at a press junket. I've never had him come into the studio, anything like that. I happened to be at a theater. I was at the ArcLight Cinemas. This is going back 12 years, maybe 11 years, 10 years, something like that. It was one of my first visits to LA. I was at the ArcLight Cinema in Hollywood. And that's one of these theaters where they'll have movie premieres while the other theaters are open to the public too, to go watch something else. And they had a red carpet, and I literally bumped into Tom Hanks. And I'm like, oh, hey, Mr. Hanks, wow, big fan, man. Thank you. And that was it. Other than that, I've never even met Tom Hanks. My one mission in my life as a husband is I have to figure out somehow, some way to get my wife to meet Tom Hanks. And I've joked about this, but I'll tell you this again. There is going to come a day when I'm going to do something you should not do. I'm going to do something, but it's for my wife, so I will do it. But there is going to come a day soon where I'm going to ask you guys. I'm going to ask all of my readers. Don't do it yet. Don't do it now. And this is totally sleazy, bad form for me to do, but it's for my wife, so I'm going to do it. There's going to come a day where I'm going to ask everybody who watches my show to say, guys, I'm going to put up a tweet right now to Tom Hanks. Take my tweet and retweet it so that Tom Hanks gets thousands of Twitter things saying, and it's going to be something about please tweet happy birthday to Ann Campea, or please figure out a way for Ann Campea to meet you, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to coordinate with you guys and ask you guys to help me, because even if it ruins my career, even if it ends my career, nobody in Hollywood wants anything to do with me anymore because I did this Bush League thing about, I got everybody to spam Tom Hanks. And it is, I'm admitting, it's totally Bush League. But I am willing to sacrifice my career to give my wife the one thing that would put the biggest smile on her face for the rest of her life. To even just have Tom Hanks tweet to Anne. It would make her year. And I'm willing to give up my career for that. So someday soon, I'm going to ask you guys to help me totally do something really wrong and totally spam Tom Hanks for me. Not yet, not today, but a day is coming. A day is coming. All right, anyway, that was John S. Marie Seafring writes, a funny short skit after Wonder Woman 84. I want to see what happens when the Secret Service interviews Scarf Guy. I didn't even think about that. When the Secret Service interviews Scarf Guy about the dust up at the White House. That's true, right? Because as far as everybody is concerned, the dude who broke into the White House, who is getting in all this violence and all these fights in the White House, was Scarf Dude. You don't think they had some security cameras in the White House to see that happening? Or they're going to figure out, who is this Scarf Guy? We need to bring him in for questioning. He broke into the White House. I didn't even think about that. You're right. That would be a funny post-credit scene. If, like, you know, they had the Linda Carter mid-credit scene. If they had a post-credit scene, all you see is a door. Just a door. That's all you see. A door. And then you see coming into frame just a hand knocking on the door. And the door opens and you see Scarf Guy. Can I help you? And then the camera turns around and you see all these Secret Service agents. Yeah, we're going to need you to come with us, please. That would have been a great post-credit scene. I would have loved that. Okay, anyway. Oh, yeah, somebody is pointing out, who just put that? Michael Brommer in the live chat is putting, hey, dude, he also stole a military jet. Yep, he also stole a jet, but I don't think they had him on camera stealing it. So they might have a way to get around that. All right, just the last couple of questions here, guys. Then we got to wrap it up. We've been going for we're getting close to 3 hours here. My voice is starting to go a little bit. Suthius writes, hey guys, a lot of people who grew up with the original trilogy got very emotional upon seeing Luke at the end of Mandalorian Season 2. Now, imagine 30 to 40 years from now, we see a de-aged Rey show up wrecking fools left and right with her yellow lightsabers. Imagine the emotional reaction people who grew up with the sequel trilogy would have seeing her 30 to 40 years from now. I don't understand why we bash each other for liking certain characters. I wish some fans would stop having a mindset of my Star Wars. That's true. It's true. I say this as a massive fan of The Force Awakens. Not so much The Rise of Skywalker, but The Force Awakens. I love that film. But I say this as a big fan. Rey did not change pop culture the way the original Star Wars and Luke Skywalker did. And Rey, unfortunately, did not appear in a full trilogy of all beloved films. Like New Hope, Empire, Jedi, 10, 10A, 10B, whatever. It wouldn't have the same reaction. I'm sure some people 30 to 40 years from now would have a similar, but not on the scale that we just had for Luke, because these movies just haven't had the same cultural impact the way the original Star Wars did. I mean, the original Star Wars, you got to remember, the original Star Wars changed the whole industry. It changed the way people saw movies. It was the original blockbuster. It changed the way everybody approached films. It changed the way people did them. And I just, as much as I love The Force Awakens, love that movie, it didn't have that kind of an impact. So I don't know that we would see that same thing 30 to 40 years from now. But that's just me. All right, next up, we got Willow, who writes, do you think the lack of international availability for HBO Max is a factor on its smaller increase in subscribers? I would definitely have signed up to watch Wonder Woman 84 and future WB films had it been available in Canada. Well, again, Will, like I said in the original video, one of the things you need to keep in mind is the number of markets it's available in. So that is one of the factors, but it's not the only factor. I mean, again, the number of people who went to go see it at theaters, the price difference between HBO Max and Disney Plus. The Mandalorian effect. There's a number of factors, and that is definitely one of them. All right, K Major writes, crazy thought, John. Maybe Warner Brothers is steering their DCEU ever so slightly to aligned with the films that have worked, like Aquaman and Shazam, and with Wonder Woman, or vice versa. Her last swing lightning is dumb, but can you see Shazam giving her a crazy assist with his lightning? Oh, I could see that in a movie. I love Shazam. I love Shazam so much. That movie, I like it more than most people do, but I absolutely adore Shazam. I think that movie is fantastic. I'd love to see him actually teaming up with the Wonder Woman. That would be good. Again, I think you can explain, as a lot of the other fans have written in and said and convinced me, that you can explain the lightning thing by the fact that she's the daughter of Zeus. That is a decent explanation to me. That's a good explanation to me. So I can buy into that one. Yeah, from there on out, we'll see. Okay, last question today will be, and it's a three-parter apparently, from Andrew Nathan, who writes, hey, John, regarding Wonder Woman 84 not feeling like the first Wonder Woman movie, I see people theorizing that it could be because Jeff Johns' involvement. I know that it's all speculation. I would even take the argument to another level and say that Zack Snyder's involvement in the film, Zack Snyder had next to no, just be clear, Patty Jenkins has already kind of confirmed this. Zack Snyder had very, very little involvement in Wonder Woman. Very little involvement in the first one. Zack was a producer. Again, guess what? Zack was also in name. If you watch Wonder Woman 84, Zack and his wife, Snyder, are both also producers on Wonder Woman 84. Do you think they actually did anything on the movie? No, they didn't. But they are producers. If you watch in the opening credits of Wonder Woman 84, Zack and Deborah Snyder are both listed as producers. They didn't really do anything on it, nor did they really do anything on the first Wonder Woman. And according to IMDb, was one of the writers on it. Just to be clear, Zack Snyder was not a writer on Wonder Woman. Now, what happens is, and by the way, IMDb has said they're looking at changing this. When you talk about who wrote a film, what we traditionally think of is the screenwriter, the person who actually sat down and wrote the movie. Zack Snyder did not write Wonder Woman 84. He has a story by credit, right? He has a story by credit. But story by means, and literally means you could write a one paragraph thing and say, hey, what if we did a Wonder Woman movie? And, it starts off with her on Themyscira and she comes to the world during World War I and then helps Steve Trevor, stop the World War I from getting too big. That literally would get you a story by credit. So just to be clear, and listen, I am a Zack Snyder fan, but I'm telling you, he had very to next to no involvement. Patty Jenkins has shared this. He had very, very little involvement with the first one, and he did not write the film. If you go and look even on IMDb, and IMDb is actually considering changing how they work to having story by credit taken out of the writer credit and putting it somewhere else because it causes a lot of misconception with people. Anyway, that being said, before Warner Brothers wet the bed and started panicking, Zack was that Kevin Feige for the time being. He was responsible for creating the DCU as we know it today. Wonder Woman 84, hell, even Birds of Prey felt like different movies. Rob hit the nail on the head the other day. This is no knock against Patty Jenkins, apart from Me Wishes, Warner Brothers, part of Me Wishes, Warner Brothers stuck to their guns all those years ago. Well, here's the thing though. And I say this as a guy who is the single biggest fan in the world of Man of Steel. Here's the thing. The DCEU was a failure. It wasn't working. It's just that simple. They did Man of Steel and they did it great. And it's awesome. I did an entire almost half-hour video on why Man of Steel is the most underrated comic book film of all time. You can go and look it up. But it failed. It underperformed at the box office. Half the audience to this day, whenever I mention how great Man of Steel is, my comments fills up with Man of Steel sucks. I mean, a lot of people hate it and half the critics hated it. And then they did Batman versus Superman. Half the audience hated it, half the critics hated it, and it massively underperformed at the box office. I mean, and I like Batman versus Superman. I gave it, go look my review. I give it a positive review. I like Batman versus Superman. But the reality is half the audience hated it, half the critics hated it, and it massively underperformed at the box office. Batman versus Superman is a movie, you've heard me say this before, is a movie that had the potential to be a $2 billion film. These are the two most iconic superheroes in the history of the medium, Batman and Superman. You do a movie called Batman versus Superman, in your sleep, it should have made $1 billion. In your sleep, without even trying. In an era where the MCU has made comic book movies the tour de force that it is, comic book movies are now the most popular things in the world. In that era, a Batman versus Superman movie should have, without even trying, made $1 billion. And it didn't. It fell well short of expectations. Half the audience hated it, half the critics hated it. And then the Warner Brothers executives were looking at Justice League, the one that Zack Snyder was doing, and they hated it. They didn't like it. So again, I am a guy there's only one film Zack Snyder has ever made that I don't like, and that's Sucker Punch. And I'll be very open about that. I think that movie's terrible. I have liked every single other movie he's made, especially Man of Steel. But let's not try to rewrite history and pretend like, wow, the DCEU was going so well before Zack Snyder left. The DCEU was like doing as good as Marvel was before they left. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Maybe it should have been. Maybe other people should appreciate those movies as much as I did, but they didn't. And so to try to go back in history and pretend, let's pretend like everything was great, that everybody loved Man of Steel. Let's pretend like everybody loved Batman versus Superman. Let's pretend like the Warner Brothers people thought Justice League was going really well. None of that is true. None of that's true. It doesn't matter how much I like Man of Steel. The fact is, tons of other people didn't. And so to pretend now that, oh, well, if Zack Snyder had just stayed involved, everything would be fine. No. There is a reason why the biggest successes in the DCU have been without Zack Snyder. You know? And in DC in general have been since Zack Snyder wasn't connected anymore. And it is what it is. Again, I shake my head and lament all the time why people do not appreciate the brilliance of Man of Steel for the actual masterpiece of the comic book genre that it is. I think Man of Steel is a movie that gets better and better every time you watch it. And I will argue that till I'm blue in the face to the day I die. And there are a lot of people who want to argue me about it because a lot of people hate the movie. I think it is an absolute masterpiece of the genre. But that doesn't matter, what I think. What matters is, how did it really do overall? And the fact of the matter is, it is what it is. And you know, it is what it is. So I just sit here and go, okay, I'm excited to see Zack Snyder's the zombie one he's doing. I'm stoked to see what he's going to do that. And then I'm stoked to see what he does other than that. But again, this rewriting of history that let's now pretend like everything was going great. It wasn't that long ago. We all remember it was not going well for the DCEU in that era. And again, it is what it is. And you and I can discuss about how it should have been better received. And I agree. And you and I can discuss about how more people should have appreciated those movies. And I will agree. And you and I can discuss how it should have done better at the box office because more people should have gone to watch it. And I will agree. But what I agree with is irrelevant. It doesn't change the reality that it was what it was. But so, no, again, we all keep looking for a magic bullet as to why did Wonder Woman not work? And again, I don't think there is any magic bullet. I think it's just a matter of, hey, they had a bad day at the office. They tried something. They went something to make it really different from the first Wonder Woman, and it didn't work. And it ended up being a movie that I was quite disappointed in. But I don't think it was because of Jeff Johns. I don't think it was because of Patty Jenkins. I don't think it was because of Zack Snyder. I don't think it was because of or any one magic bullet thing. I think it was, hey, making a good movie's hard. They tried, and a lot of people liked it, and that's great. I didn't, and that's fine. And it didn't work. So it was just a bad day at the office. But that's my take on it. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, there are still a lot of questions. We got through a lot of them today. By the way, my apologies, guys. The Christmas break, where I took like 2 days without doing a show, we got really backed up in the amount of questions that came in, which you obviously have seen. And I've been putting out companion videos every night for the last couple of nights. I've been taking the shows longer than normal. Today's show is going to end up being 3 hours long. I am doing as good as best I can to get caught up, and we are almost there. We are almost caught up. We're almost there. So I will have another companion video coming soon. We'll try to get fully caught up as soon as we can. We're up to the questions that were sent in yesterday. So we're getting there. We are getting there, but I will get us all caught up here within the next 24 to 48 hours, guys. Don't forget. And I will probably do another very casual, laid-back John Campea show tomorrow. I'll probably do a companion video today some point, and then I'll probably do, although I can't promise that because my New Year's Eve plans with Ann might get in the way, but they may be another companion video tonight, and I will probably do a John Campea show tomorrow, which will probably be like today's, very laid back, relaxed. Just probably not a lot of formal topics, probably just, a lot of Q&A. But we will get caught up. So thank you to all of you guys who sent in all those questions, because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also you supported this channel while you did it. And all of us here, thank you guys very, very much for that. Guys, it's our last show of the year. Congratulations on getting through this crap fest of a year. Let's all look forward to a better one tomorrow. Guys, please do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.